Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of What If Naruto was in RWBY. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Naruto looked in amazement at the Beacon Academy, an imposing institution that would welcome him for the next 4 years. He couldn't help but admire the architecture and design of the academy, which seemed spectacular to him. This is incredible. According to this brochure, the academy offers us free room and board, in addition to a varied curriculum that includes, let's see, history, powder chemistry, and most importantly, combat classes. I'm eager to get started, Naruto Uzumaki said excitedly, while touching his chin with his right hand. However, something caught his attention and he looked away. But this is even more incredible. Naruto's concentration was interrupted by something else. Hey, yeah, I think this is what I'm going to like most about the academy. Stop wasting time with every woman that crosses your path, the nine-tailed fox growled in annoyance, who was tired of how easily Naruto was distracted. Come on. Don't blame me, don't you see them? They're beautiful. To me, all humans are equal, hairless monkeys, said the fox. Come on, don't tell me that you don't notice how pretty the women are. The civilian ones are pretty, but the hunters are dazzling, and the best are the faunus women. Heh, 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 heh. Oh, God, it seems that perversity is hereditary, said the fox. What? Naruto asked, confused. Nothing. But changing the subject, this place is incredible, there is nothing like it in our dimension, said the fox, as amazed as the blonde ninja. Yes, it's very impressive. I wonder if Junior and the Malachite sisters are okay. The last time I talked to them they were working with a certain Roman. That cheap thief. I think they can handle him, said the fox with amusement. Yes, you're right, I'm sure it is. I don't think it's a problem for them, Naruto said, remembering his employers. But hey, don't worry about them now. We have to focus on our new life here, at Beacon Academy, said the fox, changing his tone of voice. Yes, I guess so. I really want to meet the other students, the teachers and the directors, said Naruto, with a smile on his face. And above all, to demonstrate what you are capable of, I didn't train you to be mediocre, right? Said the fox, with a twinkle in his eyes. Of course, Naruto exclaimed, raising his fist in the air. Let's give it our all, fox. Come on, Naruto, we will massacre all the humans in this institution. We will start with the math teacher. Said the fox, joining the ninja's enthusiasm. Nothing and no one can stop us. I think you're taking this conversation in a different direction, Naruto said, trying to calm the fox. Suddenly, Naruto heard a small argument, looked for who was arguing, saw two girls and decided to walk back immediately. Keep walking, Naruto, this is not your problem, the Uzumaki said to himself, but he could barely take 5 steps because a very loud explosion was heard. Then he stopped, looked at the sky and gave a sigh of tiredness. Damn, Naruto muttered, as he saw a cloud of smoke and dust. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to, said a shaky voice, coming out of the cloud. Of course not. Didn't I tell you this is dangerous? What are you doing here anyway? Aren't you too small to be here? This is not a school where you come to wasting time and playing hunters. You come here to fight and kill monsters, girl, declared another voice in an irritated manner, which also came out of the cloud. I said I'm sorry, princess. The voice that was being scolded answered angrily. Excuse me, ladies, could you give me your attention? Said a third voice, which belonged to Naruto, who had approached the cloud, moved by curiosity and concern. Suddenly, the two voices stopped their conflict and saw their new guest. Naruto met the gaze of two girls, who came out of the cloud, covered in soot and dust. // Excuse me, ladies, could you give me your attention? Naruto Uzumaki said calmly. He had no intention of getting into this little trouble, but seeing one little girl being scolded by another, he couldn't stay away and decided to intervene. When the two girls focused on him, Naruto was able to observe them better. The girl who was receiving the sermon was a young woman with short black hair with red streaks at the ends. Her eyes were silver and she was wearing a black blouse and skirt with red trim, as well as a cape of the same color. She looked very lively and happy, despite the situation. The other girl, the one who was scolding the first, was a girl with pale skin, light blue eyes and long white hair with a braid on the right side of her head. On her forehead was a silver tiara and on her left eye was a vertical scar. She wore a white bolero-type jacket over a short dress of the same tone, with a black lace neckline. The inside of the bolero was red and her sleeves turned light blue near her wrists. She had a very elegant and refined appearance, but also very cold and severe. Naruto was impressed by the beauty of both girls, but he didn't say it out loud. He just thought to himself, what a beautiful sight, thank God. Hey, isn't that the girl you have as the wallpaper on your computer? The QB said to Naruto, referring to the white-haired girl. The young blonde looked closely at that girl and blushed a little. If the QB hadn't reminded him, he would never have recognized her. Sometimes it was difficult for him to memorize her faces. It's Weiss Schnee, but what is she doing here? Naruto wondered. He knew that she was a famous singer, but he didn't understand what she was doing in that place. Naruto left that doubt for another time and introduced himself to the girls politely. He put his hand on his chest and bowed slightly. Forgive me, I didn't mean to be nosy or get into your business, but I would advise you to stop arguing, Naruto said politely. And who are you? The white-haired girl asked with a frown. She didn't like a stranger getting into her affairs. Sorry for not introducing myself earlier. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Could you tell me your names, beautiful ladies? Naruto told them with a kind smile. Weiss Schnee, the white-haired girl responded with her arms crossed. She didn't like Naruto's tone, but she didn't want to be rude either. Ruby Rose, said the black-haired girl who was lying on the ground. She did thank Naruto for intervening, as she was tired of Weiss nagging her. What beautiful names, ladies. I don't want to be indiscreet or bother you, Miss Schnee, but I recommend that you stop fighting with this girl. She is causing a ruckus, Naruto advised them diplomatically. But what did you think that? But before she could finish her sentence, Weiss realized that many students were observing her with curiosity. She let out a huff and picked up her things to leave. Naruto watched Weiss leave and smiled mischievously. Oh, it's not bad, I give it an 8, his attitude takes away points. He then crouched down next to the black-haired girl and offered her hand to him. It seems that the floor is very comfortable, but I suggest you stand up or we will be late. Ruby Rose accepted the blonde's gloved hand and stood up. Thank you very much for helping me with her, she told him with a smile. You're welcome, it's a pleasure to help. Let's go, Naruto responded enthusiastically. So I managed to thwart a powder theft attempt at a store. I hit them so fast that they didn't know what happened to them, Ruby Rose said happily, making strange karate moves. What a good story, miss. I hope you weren't hurt when faced with that unfortunate situation. Naruto said politely, although inside he was a little tired of this girl's talk, but he couldn't complain about her, he was just like her when he was younger. Stop calling me miss. It's weird, call me by my name, Ruby said. I'm sorry, but I can't do it, it would be disrespectful to you, it's polite. Naruto said seriously, although inside he was tired of talking like a damn butler, but at the Kyuubi's insistence he behaved like this, although there was another reason, and that was because Naruto hated this and the fox enjoyed watching Naruto do things he hated, it was a pleasure for him. The silver-eyed girl simply puffed her cheeks in denial. So that's why you're 2 years ahead, you must be incredibly skilled, Miss Rose, Naruto said. I already told you not to keep calling me that. Call me by my name. Ruby shouted, upset. The black-haired girl remained silent, but in an instant she pulled out her gun. Look what I have. Yes, it's impressive, right? It's a scythe that transforms into a high-impact rifle, I designed it myself. You are very skilled and intelligent, you have a natural talent, said Naruto, very impressed. Naruto looked curiously at Ruby's weapon, which looked like a masterpiece of engineering and creativity. And what do you have? The silver-eyed girl asked innocently. Nothing very impressive really, I only have this sword, said the blonde, pointing to his sword and his Sig Sauer pistol. That's very impressive, the silver-eyed girl said sarcastically, although it didn't show in her tone. Naruto shrugged, not giving much thought to Ruby's comment. He knew that her sword and his gun were effective weapons, which had served him well on many occasions. He didn't need to brag about them, nor about his abilities. I can see your disappointment, but it doesn't matter. Very good, we're here, said Naruto looking at the entrance of the auditorium. Thank you very much for guiding me, said Ruby. Don't worry, I'm also heading to the same place, because today is my first day too. Today? I didn't know, Ruby exclaimed excitedly. I thought you were a student, you seem to know the academy very well. It's actually very easy to talk to you, Naruto. I feel so comfortable, I hope we continue to be good friends from today. Naruto was surprised at Ruby's words. He didn't expect her to consider him a friend of hers, after having just met her. He wasn't used to making friends so quickly, or trusting anyone. I am your friend, the blonde asked, a little self-conscious, despite his upright and respectful attitude. Yes, you are my first friend, or at least that you don't want to, said the silver-eyed girl nervously, due to Naruto's fixed gaze. The blonde didn't know what to answer. Friends, that word was somewhat rejected by him, and it's not that he didn't have friends, but friends had rarely brought him anything good. In this world he had friends, one was somewhere in Remnant, far away from him, where he couldn't betray him if it occurred to him to do so. There were Junior and the Malachite sisters, but they knew what he was capable of, they would not risk doing something against him, knowing the consequences of his actions. They couldn't hurt him, no one else could hurt him. She wanted to be his friend, but he wasn't sure he could trust her. They would be together at the academy for 4 years, and they would see each other frequently, but he didn't want to commit to anyone. He seemed like a good person to her, but he knew that appearances could be deceiving, and he preferred to avoid problems in the future. Naruto sighed and tried to smile. He didn't want to offend RWBY, or make her feel bad. Maybe he could give her a chance, and see if she was sincere. Maybe he could learn something from her, and from her optimism. Maybe he could change a little, and stop being so distrustful. But not today. I don't think, Naruto began to say. Except, brat, said the fox, interrupting him. Because, Naruto asked the fox. You are very distrustful of people, that is good, but you need to stop being so distrustful. No one will stab you in the back as soon as they know you. I know it bothers you that I tell you, but the world is not totally bad, except the offer of this human. Your heart is still wounded, it is time for you to start healing. Naruto didn't know what to say. Those words coming out of the fox's mouth were so well intentioned that he doubted for a moment that the voice he was hearing was that of the Kyuubi. I do not know what to say. Also, having to make friends with people makes them lower their guard and makes them manipulable. You can start using them however you want, said the fox maliciously. And here I thought you cared about me, the blonde sighed and looked at the silver-eyed girl. Naruto felt confused by the fox's words. On the one hand, he told him to trust people, and on the other, to use them for his own purposes. He didn't know what the fox wanted from him, or what he himself wanted. I would like to be your friend, Miss Rose. Me too, Naruto, I hope we get along well, but RWBY was expectant as she saw how the blonde stretched his arms and breathed in the air and then immediately released it. RWBY was surprised to see Naruto's change of attitude. Before he was upright and gentlemanly, and now he was relaxed and joking. She didn't understand what had happened to him, or if he was the same one she had met. That was very annoying. At some point I wanted to bite my tongue and stop talking like an idiot. Hey RWBY, don't stare at me, we have to go, we can't be late. RWBY simply stared at him in shock, as her new friend's attitude took a 180-degree turn. Naruto. The blonde simply smiled at RWBY to relax her. RWBY, if you don't stop looking at me that way, you'll make me understand that you want something more than my friendship. Hep. Naruto and RWBY arrived at the main building of Beacon Academy, where there was a large demonstration room for announcements, and another room that had a small training and fighting arena. At that moment, the entire room was prepared to receive the new students who had been accepted into the prestigious Hunter Academy. Upon entering, Naruto and RWBY were impressed by the large number of students in the lecture hall. RWBY felt nervous seeing so many people, since she wasn't used to socializing much. Naruto, for his part, was eager for what awaited them, although his expression didn't show it. RWBY, come, I found you a place. An animated voice echoed among them and everyone looked in the direction of the voice. Naruto saw a cute girl with messy blonde hair, but he immediately recognized her. She was the young woman who had tried to make trouble at the club where he worked and he frankly hoped to never see her again. Well, RWBY, I think you should go back to your sister, Naruto said, but before he could finish, the redhead grabbed him by the hand and dragged him groping towards the blonde girl. This is my sister Yang. Yang, this is Naruto, RWBY said, introducing them. That young woman simply stood with her arms crossed, staring at Naruto with annoyance. The two looked at each other defiantly, one with his hands in his pockets and the other with her arms crossed over her chests. RWBY simply watched them impassively, waiting for them to say something. I didn't expect to see you so soon, miss. It seems that fate played a trick on us, Naruto said, making an ironic bow. It seems so, Yang said, flatly. Interrupting the tense conversation, RWBY spoke. Wait, do you know each other? Yes, they said in unison, without taking their eyes off the other. He's the reason I was so hurt that night you found me, Yang mentioned, referring to the night RWBY had been looking for her on that dark street. In my defense, RWBY, the beautiful lady in question tried to cause a lot of trouble in the establishment where I worked and my job was specifically to avoid them. So there was simply a clash of interests that could not be avoided, Naruto mentioned, explaining his part of the story. RWBY couldn't believe what she heard. Her friend and her sister had gotten into a fight and now they had to live together in the same academy. How was this going to turn out well? RWBY was stunned to hear that Naruto and Yang had met before, and not in a good way. Naruto apparently worked as a security guard at a nightclub where Yang had tried to start a ruckus. Naruto had stopped her and given her a beating that left her wounded and bruised. RWBY remembered the night she had found her sister on a dark street. I already told you to stop getting into trouble, Yang. RWBY reproached her, looking at her sister with concern and disappointment. Yang just grimaced guiltily and avoided RWBY's gaze. She knew her sister was right, but she couldn't help but seek out strong emotions and adrenaline. It was her way of living life to the fullest. Don't worry, RWBY, your sister didn't cause that big of a disturbance. I stopped her without any problem, Naruto said, trying to downplay the matter. It had been a fairly simple fight, the girl had an explosive temper and superhuman strength. Naruto had been impressed by her stamina and fighting spirit. You were lucky, Yang said, with a tone of defiance. She wasn't willing to admit that Naruto had beaten her. She thought that if she had more time and space, she would have been able to turn the situation around. Yang she hated losing, and even more so against someone she disliked. Really? Naruto gasped in false surprise. That would explain why your punches were so weak and why you were so bad at fighting. You're here for Beacon Academy's initiation, right? If we meet again, please don't hold back. I'd hate for you to do it for my sake. A smug smile formed on Naruto's face. I'd hate to know that I beat you knowing you held back. Don't worry, I won't hold back either. Yang became angry, obviously noticing Naruto's subtle provocation. She wasn't going to leave it like that. You know, I wouldn't want to postpone our rematch. I'll kick your ass right now. Yang got into a fighting stance, ready to throw herself at Naruto and show him who was the best. Yang, stop trying to fight with everyone. RWBY scolded, stepping between them. RWBY didn't want her sister to get into any more trouble, or ruin her chance of getting into Beacon. Besides, she didn't think it was fair that they were fighting in such a public and crowded place. RWBY knew that Yang was very strong and could cause a lot of damage if she got out of control. Don't be mad at her, RWBY. Naruto smiled at her. She must have had her reasons, she just chose the wrong place to riot. So let's leave the past in the past. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I hope we will be very good academy classmates. Naruto extended his hand towards Yang, offering her a truce. Naruto had nothing personal against Yang, he had just done her job. Plus, he thought she was an interesting and fun girl, and he thought they could get along if they got to know each other better. Yang Xiaolong. Nice to meet you, the lilac-eyed girl said disinterestedly, shaking Naruto's hand loosely. Yang was hesitant to accept Naruto's offer, but she also didn't want to disappoint her sister. Yang knew that RWBY was really looking forward to entering Beacon and making new friends. There seems to be an animosity between us, miss, Naruto said with false patience, noticing Yang's coldness. Naruto knew Yang didn't have much sympathy for him, but he hoped that would change over time. Do you think? Yang said with a frown, but she sighed and relaxed immediately. I guess for my sister I could put my anger aside. It's nice to meet you, Naruto. The pleasure is all mine, Miss Xiaolan. Please, just call me Yang. I don't like formalities. Thank you for that show of trust, I will keep it in mind in the future, said Naruto, appreciating Yang's gesture. Yang raised an eyebrow and looked at RWBY, who was smiling brightly. RWBY was very happy that Naruto and Yang got along, since she loved them both very much and she hoped they would be friends. RWBY said to Yang. Don't worry, he is like that with his superiors and with those he doesn't know. Wait until he trusts you and he will treat you like me, said the cheerful RWBY, pointing to herself. RWBY wanted to say that Naruto was very fun and affectionate with her. Well, I'm leaving, ladies. I hope to see you very soon, Naruto said, saying goodbye to them. Naruto wanted some peace, and he also thought it was better to leave the sisters alone to talk to each other. He didn't want to intrude. Won't you stay with us a little longer, Naruto? RWBY asked, with a hint of sadness in her voice. RWBY felt a great affinity with Naruto, and she would have liked to enjoy his company a little longer. I'm sorry, but I think it's better that I go. You guys need to have a moment of privacy. I wish you the best, RWBY, Naruto said, with a sincere smile. Naruto winked at RWBY, then turned to Yang. It was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Xiaolong. I hope to see you again soon. Naruto extended his hand to Yang, and she shook it tightly. Naruto turned around and walked away, leaving the sisters alone. He didn't ask them why they had different last names. Naruto thought that maybe they were half-sisters, or that there was some other reason. It wasn't something that concerned him anyway. Naruto just wanted to be nice to them, and respect their space. What was that about winking at him? Do you think you're the protagonist of an anime? After saying goodbye to the sisters, Naruto made his way through the crowd until he found a spot where he could see the stage. He was eager to hear Principal Ozpan's speech, but he was also thinking about the girl he had just met. Ruby Rose, a young aspiring hunter who had proven to be very kind and nice to him. I really liked Ruby, you can tell she has a pure and kind heart, even if she is a little embarrassing. Naruto commented, remembering her redhead's nervous smile when he had thanked her for saving her from Weiss. Yes, of course, and it also shows that you liked it, Don't tell me that you didn't notice her curves, her soft skin, her innocent eyes. Kyubi interrupted, the nine-tailed fox's voice carrying a mocking and malicious tone. Shut up, Kyubi, please. Naruto exclaimed, putting his hand on her forehead. She's a good girl, don't be rude and don't ruin the image I have of her with your obscene comments. Come on, don't act silly with me, I know some things crossed your mind when you saw her. Admit it, it makes you horny. Kyubi insisted, enjoying his guest's discomfort. Naruto blushed. Of course not, I would never think that, Naruto stuttered, refusing to acknowledge that he had indeed felt a certain attraction for RWBY, but he didn't want to tell the fox. You don't know what I think. But Naruto couldn't finish his sentence, because a figure entered the auditorium, capturing everyone's attention. Naruto's jaw dropped when he saw that it was a man who looked very similar to his former teacher Kakashi, the copy ninja. The man had disheveled silver hair, brown eyes behind glasses, fair skin, and fine features. He was wearing an open black suit over a dark green button-down vest and a green shirt. He was also wearing pants of the same color. That guy looks just like Kakashi. I guess this is RWBY, the youngest director in the history of Remnant, a living legend, thought Naruto, impressed by the presence of the man who was heading to the podium. RWBY, the voice of the nine-tailed fox that lived inside Naruto, spoke to him seriously. Listen well, brat, and don't get distracted. This is important, he told him, referring to the speech that Principal RWBY was going to give about the threat of the Grim and the role of the hunters. RWBY cleared his throat and looked at the crowd of students with a calm, bored expression. I'll be brief. They have come here in search of knowledge, to improve their power and to acquire more skill. And when they are done, they plan to dedicate their lives to protecting people. But when I look at them, all I see is wasted energy. You need a purpose, a direction. Do not believe that knowledge will free you from this, but time in this school will show you that knowledge will only take you so far. It is up to you to take the first step. With that, the director turned around and left the auditorium, leaving the students stunned and confused. Naruto frowned, expecting something more from RWBY, the youngest headmaster in the history of Remnant, a living legend. But RWBY was gone. That's it. They kept me waiting for over an hour for the director to just come up on stage and say that and leave immediately. What kind of joke is this? Naruto exclaimed, furious and frustrated. But Naruto was amazed to see a woman he had not seen before, since he had been very aware of RWBY. RWBY was replaced by the deputy headmistress, Glinda Goodwitch, a middle-aged woman with very light blonde hair tied up in a bun with a bow hanging down the right side of her face. Her eyes were a deep green and she was wearing thin, rectangular glasses. She had lilac earrings with small beads that matched her necklace. She wore a long-sleeved white blouse that showed off part of her chest and puffed sleeves that fit near her wrist before flared out near her hands. Her skirt was black and tight, with buttons in a vertical line down the front. Her stockings were a lighter black-brown shade and her boots were black with brown heels. Her cape was purple on the inside and black on the outside, with brown diamond-shaped bead decorations that ran horizontally down her back. Her personal symbol was a tiara that stood on the line of beads. Her weapon was a whip, called the disciplinary, which she wore hooked to the top of her right boot. She looked sternly at the people, making them all quiet. Her presence commanded respect and authority. She began to speak in a firm, clear voice. Tonight you can meet in the hall. Tomorrow you will begin your initiation. Be ready. You can leave. It's the vice principal. You should pay more attention to your surroundings, brat. Brat, RWBY asked, confused because Naruto wasn't answering him. Oh, Holy Mother, young lady who is on high, from your eyes were born the most beautiful jewels on earth, from your voice is born the first music, from you is born the meaning of beauty. I wish I could get closer, but my hands will never reach you because you are as distant as the stars in the sky. It is only a dream for this young man who barely knows about life, but he does not care, his destiny is to love her from a distance. But for a moment, this unfortunate man would like to have one of his kisses and thus not feel the cold of the distance. He wants, said Naruto, with poetic words. Never in his life had he imagined saying something like that with so much passion, but he couldn't help it. He was so captivated by Glinda's presence and beauty that words escaped him. Brat, react, RWBY shouted, very angry, cutting off the blonde's train of thoughts. Idiot, don't get distracted, the conference ended a while ago. Move, he ordered him, pushing him out of the auditorium. Naruto obeyed, but without stopping thinking about the woman who had cast a spell on him. He walked like a zombie through the halls, not paying attention to anything else. This farewell has left me with a deep wound, when I see for the last time what was the most beautiful. From now on, I will not call anything beautiful other than his gaze, said Naruto, with a melancholic voice. What are you talking about, brat? What are you talking about? Look, don't get distracted, we have to go to the classroom, that's where all the students go. So hurry up, it's a little far, RWBY told him, trying to make him react. Yes, far away like the stars in the sky, Naruto said, sighing, not caring if any student heard him. He was so in love with the vice principal that he didn't realize how ridiculous he sounded. How much you babble, brat. Have you gone crazy? Exclaimed the nine-tailed fox, irritated by Naruto's attitude. He didn't understand how he could be so blinded by a woman he barely knew. It seemed silly and a waste of time. Stop talking nonsense and focus on what matters. You are here to learn to be a hunter, not to fall in love with the first person who looks at you. Besides, she is much older than you and has a position of authority. You have no chance with her, so forget her and move on, RWBY advised him, pragmatically. // Let's see. My locker is 533, murmured a young man with blonde hair and blue eyes as he looked for his assigned locker where he kept his weapons. Today was the day of the initiation test and Naruto Uzumaki was very nervous. He wanted to prove his worth as an aspiring hunter. He quickly grabbed his sword and pistol and headed to the dining room to have a light breakfast. He sat at a table away from the crowd, but he wasn't alone. Inside her mind, she was having a conversation with her tenant. Hey, boy, do you have everything you need? The fox asked him with a deep voice. Yes, I think so, Naruto responded thoughtfully. Maybe he had forgotten something. Let's see. Sword, the fox reviewed. Ready, Naruto confirmed. Pistol. Lista. Bombs from the ground. Listas. Shuriken y alambre ninja. Listos. Anesthesico. Listo. Cartuchos de polvos. Listos. Soldier's pills. Ready. Don't worry, I have everything hidden in my secret pockets. Nothing will take us by surprise, Naruto assured. Once he finished reviewing all the instruments he would bring to the initiation, he proceeded to have breakfast. A normal breakfast for anyone. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee and a small salad. She enjoyed it, of course, but... Damn, I want a bowl of ramen, Naruto complained. You can't do it, brat. Only on Fridays. This is your strict regime, the RWBY reminded him. Please, I train like a dog for 6 days out of 7 days a week. You only allow me to treat myself on Friday. But I have been doing this for 2 years. Could you give me some leeway and allow me skip? I don't know, 1 day of training, 2, 3 days or a week of training. Naruto begged. Don't even dream of it, boy. If you want to be the best, you have to sacrifice. Besides, today is an important day. You can't risk losing focus because of a bowl of noodles, the fox reprimanded him. Okay, I get it. But when this test is over, I'm going to eat the biggest, most delicious ramen there is, and I'm going to take a break from training, Naruto swore to himself. You already know what I think about it, right? The fox responded. Yes, I can't trust myself because the world is very dangerous and maybe there is some enemy out there that can kill me and is stronger than me. That I have to be disciplined, Naruto said reluctantly. They were the same words he had been hearing for the past 2 years. But deep down she believed that she could take on any adversary in Remnant. After all, she was now at Beacon. If he passed the initiation, she would prove that he was above the level of many people. Here they only accepted the best of the best. Furthermore, she had defeated Yang in a match, an unofficial fight, and she was also here aspiring to enter Beacon. That meant he was incredibly skilled. Though she was surprised at how easy it was to defeat her. Perhaps Yang was the least skilled of all the would-be hunters. You know what would be great with these scrambled eggs? Bacon. Juicy and tasty bacon, said Naruto. The breakfast itself was delicious, of course, but Naruto didn't enjoy it. He was too nervous about the test and the training that awaited him afterwards. He couldn't relax for a moment. He always had to be alert and prepared. This is what the RWBY, the nine-tailed fox that lived inside him, demanded. Then, a happy and jovial voice caught his attention. Far away from him, a funny conversation could be heard between two people. Well, only one person was amused. The other was calm and collected. We have to have a secret code, something like animal sounds. Maybe a sloth. Yes, the sound of a sloth. That will be our security signal to find each other, a girl shouted. I don't think a sloth makes any kind of sound, and if it does, I ignore it, said a boy next to the girl. Come on, I need more ideas. We have to be together. Well, together but not together. You understand what I mean, right? The girl smiled excitedly. A smile that gave off light, and even Naruto could perceive that positive energy despite the distance. And from that distance, Naruto carefully examined that girl. Orange hair. My god, it looks so good on her and it's my favorite color, she whispered with admiration. The girl had flaming orange hair, short and messy. Her eyes were an aqua blue that shone with curiosity and joy. Her skin was fair and soft. Her body was slim and athletic. Who is that girl? Naruto asked himself. He watched as the girl hugged the boy with affection, sweetness and joy. The boy didn't seem to pay much attention to her, or if she did, she didn't show it. He was so calm and collected. He was a tall and thin boy, with black hair and magenta eyes. Damn it, I don't know the idiot and I already hate him, Naruto complained. Why can't I have something like that? Shit, you had to be my partner. Why are you a damn grumpy fox and sarcastic, and couldn't you be a sexy, flirtatious little slut? Fuck you, brat. All students, get ready. In 5 minutes the initiation will begin, a voice was heard over the loudspeaker. That's the signal, fox. Let's get out of here. This will be good, said Naruto. Naruto finished his breakfast and stood up from the table. He adjusted his uniform and headed to the meeting room. He was ready to face the biggest challenge of his life. The initiation test. All the would-be hunters were standing in front of a cliff that overlooked a huge forest. Beneath their feet, there were small platforms that swayed in the wind. In front of them were Headmaster Ozpin and Deputy Headmistress Glinda, who were looking at them seriously. Naruto had a slight blush on his cheeks, which he couldn't hide. He just looked at the forest so they wouldn't notice his nervousness and his embarrassment. Seeing Glinda was a delight to his eyes. Naruto was at the end of the line of applicants, next to RWBY. Taking a breath, he psyched himself up. He had cold eyes and an impassive look, watching the forest. He had an image to project. He wanted to prove that he was an elite soldier and that he deserved to be in Beacon. Welcome, students. Today is the day of your final exam to enter Beacon. Here we will test your strength, your speed and... Principal Ozpin began to say, with a cup of coffee in his hand. Hey, I heard that White Fang has been doing his thing all over the kingdom. Are they up to something? Naruto asked, stopping paying attention to what Ozpin was saying. He was concerned about the political and social situation in the world. White Fang was a terrorist organization formed by Faunus, a race of humans with animal traits who suffered discrimination and oppression. Naruto sympathized with them, because he was also different. Concentrate, boy. Don't be distracted by those matters. You have to take a test, the fox told him, with a deep and severe voice. The fox was very demanding and strict with Naruto. True, but I'm very worried about Junior and the sisters. I wouldn't want anything to happen to them in that city, Naruto said. Boy, we'll talk about it after this, okay? Now just concentrate, the fox told him. Yes, but, and so on, Naruto continued discussing his concerns with the QB. On the outside, Naruto had a serious and serene face, but on the inside he was very distressed by the news he had seen that morning. Apparently, White Fang had attacked a train station but they were stopped by some hunters. Surely everyone heard rumors about possible teamwork. Glinda's voice brought Naruto out of his trance. You will all form a team today, declared the vice principal with her eyes looking at all the young people. And the team you form today will be the one you will maintain throughout your training at Beacon. It will be with the first person you make eye contact with. Once you do, he or she will be your partner for the next 4 years. Naruto heard a what? From RWBY. He chuckled. Once you are in the forest and have your partner, you must go to the north of the forest. You will encounter obstacles and do not hesitate to destroy them or you will die. You will also be under constant surveillance. You have to collect a relic that is found in the northern end of this forest. There are several, but you only have to collect one and then return to this cliff. From the moment you leave here until you return, you will be monitored and evaluated. Any questions? Director Ozpin said, with a calm and authoritative voice. Naruto's face was serious and impassive, but inside he was pissed off at how shitty this test was. Really? That's it? I mean, for the best hunter academy, you just have to go to a fucking grim forest and it's not even full of grim, there's just a few and just pick a relic and go back to the same site. This is fucking garbage. Why is it so easy? Naruto complained. I thought it would be a survival test, that they would send us to the forest or a war zone for 3 days or a week with the objective of surviving with what we have. I don't know, but it seems that life wants to play a game with me. I shit on everything, Naruto lamented. In some ways, Naruto's disappointment was very understandable. For a boy who had so many expectations of coming to Beacon and proving himself in a test that was vital to getting accepted and then just having to go pick up a shitty item and come back again was completely disappointing. And it was understandable. The Chunin exams were practically life or death and he had passed them by the skin of his teeth. And that was just the first phase. He thought that perhaps Beacon, being one of the most prestigious academies, training hunters who would fight creatures of pure evil to protect humanity, would have a little more difficulty. But no, this was too easy, even for him. Boy, don't be mad, this is good. It's much better than we thought. You'll be able to get over this quickly, the QB told him. But QB, I prepared enough. I have my weapons and I have food in reserve in my scrolls, Naruto told him. You know you couldn't use those scrolls now that you know you're being monitored. Concentrate and don't pay attention to this. Just take the test and live another day, the fox told him. He heard the sounds of platforms rising along with people being thrown into the air, but he didn't notice them. Only in RWBY. He expected her to be his mate. See you, Naruto. She heard RWBY's voice next to her just as she was thrown off the cliff. I hope to have you on the same team. She shouted at the top of her lungs already in the air. Those words made the blonde mentally smile. She was a good girl. Friendly, happy and brave. He liked her. Taking a small turn in the direction of Glinda and Ozpin, Naruto Uzumaki bowed and was launched into the air. Although the initiation was not what he expected, he figured it was better for it to be easy than for it to be difficult. Plus, maybe he would have the chance to meet the orange-haired girl that had caught his attention. Or the boy who was with her. Or someone else. The only thing he knew was that he had to give his best. And that the fox would be with him for better or worse. // Naruto Uzumaki let himself be carried away by the wind that hit his face. He hadn't planned how to land, but he didn't care much about it either. At that point, nothing could kill him, only hurt him. But he couldn't allow himself to crash into the ground, so just before reaching the ground, he pulled out his sword and stabbed it into the trunk of a tree, breaking his fall forcefully. Well, that was easier than I thought, the blonde said once on the ground. Alright, let's continue north. And Naruto resumed his march, observing the Emerald Forest. It was a normal forest, like any other, very different from the forests in his world, where the trees were huge and leafy. The Emerald Forest was home to Grimm's creatures, and the Forest of Death in his world was home to creatures of great size and ferocity, such as spiders the size of houses and snakes the size of trees. Naruto was still wondering how he had managed to survive the first phase of the Chunin exams. Boy, at least you paid attention to that part of Ozpin's lecture, said the fox. Naruto stopped when he heard the noise of some bushes moving, and a redhead came out of them and looked attentively at the blonde. The blonde looked back at him with a polite smile. She had red hair tied in a ponytail that reached her waist and bright green eyes. She also wore light green eyeshadow around the upper corners of her eyes. She was tall and a little muscular compared to most of the girls at Beacon. The upper part of it consisted of 2 layers. The top layer was a light brown strapless top that split in 2 vertically with some bronze designs. The bottom layer was a light bronze V neckline. She was wearing a stretchy red A-line skirt that reached mid-thigh and short brown sleeves on both arms. She also wore a large red scarf that covered her ankles and seemed to be wrapped around her skirt. On his right hip was a small circular bronze plate on the opposite side of where he fastened his belt. The plate displayed their shield and spear symbol. She wore a bronze ornament around her head, behind her ears and under her bangs. Hanging from her ornament were a pair of small, teardrop-shaped green emeralds on chains. Additionally, she wore a large bronze necklace and a bronze bracelet on her upper left arm. Although Naruto could recognize that the redhead was beautiful in every way, she no longer impressed him as much as the other times he saw a beautiful woman. After what with Glinda, he simply assumed that his expectations had risen a lot. I think I've seen her before, said the blonde, trying to remember where he had seen that girl. I guess we're partners, said the redhead, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. Before the question, Naruto Uzumaki put his right hand on his chest and bowed before the redhead. Naruto Uzumaki at his service. At that response, the redhead made a face of discomfort. Ignoring that, Naruto led the redhead to the meeting point. We have to head north, follow me. Immediately the redhead caught up with him and walked next to him. Neither of them spoke, the girl because of the discomfort and the blonde for the simple fact of not wanting to do it, but luckily for them a group of 4 Beowulfs blocked their path. Immediately the young woman extended her shield and spear. She turned to look at Naruto out of the corner of her eye but was surprised to not find him at her side. When she turned her gaze to the enemy, she found the sight of Naruto turning his back to her and the Beowulfs with his right hand in the scabbard of his half-extracted sword, which he quickly placed in its sheath. At that same moment, the heads of the 4 Beowulfs fell to the ground. Pyrrha stared at the blonde who began to walk. She was surprised at how fast Naruto moved. Miss, we have an initiation to complete, please follow me. Snapping out of her stupor, she immediately caught up with him without saying a word. By the way, you haven't told me your name yet, beautiful lady. At that moment the young woman realized her rudeness. Pyrrha Nikos, the redhead answered, feeling a slight blush on her cheeks. Naruto nodded and smiled kindly. Pyrrha Nikos, a very pretty name for a very pretty girl, the blonde told him, trying to break the ice. Pyrrha blushed even more and looked down, not knowing how to react to the compliment. She wasn't used to someone speaking to her like that, without flattery or hidden interest. Naruto noticed her reaction and chuckled. Don't worry, I'm not flirting with you, I'm just that friendly, the blonde told her, winking at her. Pyrrha looked up and smiled back, feeling a little more comfortable. Well, I'm glad you're friendly, Naruto. I hope we can get along as partners, the redhead told him, sincerely, but she still had something to say. Ask. Don't you know me? Miss, there is a test to complete. Whether you know it or not is irrelevant. Is it of utmost importance that you know it? Asked the blonde, who stopped his walk to look at it carefully. Nikos only observed Naruto with his eyes blinking, but immediately he smiled. No, you are not important. Naruto gave him a kind smile. I hope we get along well. I'll see you for 4 years. Please tell me if something bothers you. By the way, you go ahead, I'll go behind, I'll watch your back, and you'll be attentive in front of the enemies, Naruto proposed to the redhead. Pyrrha Nikos smiled and listened to what Naruto said and stood in front, at the vanguard and Naruto behind, covering the rear. They resumed their walk, heading north to recover the relics and pass the initiation. Naruto only remained looking ahead, admiring Pyrrha's figure, who walked elegantly and firmly. He wondered why most hunters fight in heels. It should be a complete torture for them, but one day someone will answer that question. For the moment they would only see the sexy redhead. What do you say, QB? Asked the Uzumaki. I give it a 9, it has a nice rear. //. With this, the last couple is formed, announced Glinda Goodwitch, consulting her scroll. How curious, the quadruple champion and the young prodigy seem like a formidable duo, Ozpin commented. According to what I have seen of Mr. Uzumaki, he seems to live up to his reputation as a prodigy, but there is still much to prove. //. I think it's here, Pira Nikos asked, with some doubt. Miss Nikos, it is evident that it is not here, we are looking for some ruins, this is clearly a cave, Naruto responded in a dry tone, let's get out of here. Pira obeyed the blonde and walked away from the entrance of the cave, but they did not notice that an orange-haired girl and a black-haired boy were entering it. //. We have finally found the ruins, Naruto said calmly, while Pira Nikos breathed heavily next to him. Behind them ran an orange-haired girl and a black-haired boy, who formed the other assigned couple. The four were fleeing from a huge scorpion that had attacked them. How did you think of entering that cave? Pira shouted at the other two. It was Nora's idea, she thought the ruins were there, the black-haired boy responded, pointing to the aforementioned Nora. Nora was a girl with light skin, orange hair and aqua eyes. She wore a black collared vest that reached to her waist, with her symbol, a mallet with a lightning bolt, on her back. Underneath the vest, she wore 2 layers of clothing colored red and light blue respectively. Additionally, she was wearing a white sleeveless top that formed a heart on her chest, with a white sleeve cut off on each arm. She also wore fingerless gloves on each hand, a pink skirt that started at her waist and ended mid-thigh, and pink and white shoes with pink ribbons and her symbol on the soles of hers. I'm sorry, I was wrong, but it's okay, we just have to throw him off. Nora exclaimed happily. Ren, hurry up, you're left behind. Ren was a young man with long black hair and a ponytail that reached the middle of his back. He had a magenta line on the left side of his hair, which matched his eyes. His clothes seemed influenced by Eastern culture. He was wearing a dark green tailcoat with diagonal buttons that was red inside, with black and gold trim and a small pink sleeve. The ornaments ran down the right side of his torso and formed a black necklace. He was wearing black under the sleeves of the suit, and somewhat gray pants with black shoes. I'm not slow, I'm just at the limit of my strength, Ren complained tiredly. Naruto recognized these boys, he had seen them in the dining room, very far away from him. He didn't know much about them, only that their names were Nora Valkyrie and Lai Ren, and that they had been friends since childhood. In his escape from the giant scorpion, Naruto reached inside his jacket and pulled out some smoke bombs. What is that? Nora asked. This is a distraction, Naruto said in a flat but polite tone, and threw the objects at the scorpion's feet, creating a screen of smoke that allowed them to escape towards the ruins. We have already reached the ruins, Naruto announced, and looked at an exhausted Ren. It seems that you need to train more, Knight. What kind of monster are you? Ren asked in amazement. Excuse my lack of courtesy, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, at your service, Naruto said with a bow towards the aforementioned Ren. I am Lai Ren, he introduced himself, and she is Nora Valkyrie. The orange-haired girl interrupted, hugging her friend. Naruto frowned. He hated popular kids, especially those who were cold and distant. This is my partner, Pira Nikos. The two nodded to the redhead, who returned a friendly smile. Then, a familiar voice interrupted their brief conversation. Naruto, where have you been? I thought you were meeting RWBY, Yang asked. Miss Xiaolong, I'm sorry to tell you that your sister didn't find me and I couldn't find her either, Naruto replied. Yang made a disgusted face, but changed it to a smile and grabbed Naruto by the collar, pulling him towards her in an effusive hug. Well, it doesn't matter, I want you to meet my partner, this is Blake Belladonna, the blonde pushed Yang's hand away and approached Blake politely. Blake was a light-skinned young woman with wavy black hair and amber eyes. She wore a black buttoned vest with tails and a single silver button on the front. Underneath it, she wore a white, sleeveless, high-neck t-shirt and white shorts with a zipper down the front of each leg, emblazoned with the YKK logo. She also wore low-heeled black boots and wide stockings with a color gradation from black to purple at the ankles. She had a serene and mysterious appearance, which contrasted with Yang, who was more outgoing and cheerful. Miss, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, at your service, I hope Miss Xiaolong has not caused you any problems. Don't worry, I'm already used to their craziness, Blake told her with a smile, while the blonde let out a snort of indignation. It seems like they had some problems, the blonde commented to Naruto with amusement. It's nothing serious, this smokescreen will keep him confused for a while, but not for long, so Naruto clapped his hands and caught the attention of everyone present. Listen, we have to make a plan to avoid facing this beast, does anyone have any ideas? Nora's hand went up excitedly, as if she were a hyperactive child. I have a plan. Look, we can but before he could finish his sentence or his idea, a scream was heard from the sky. It was RWBY, who was on a Nevermore. Isn't that your sister? Blake asked Young. Yes, Young exclaimed with anguish, seeing her sister on the back of a Nevermore. She had never felt so afraid in her life, but her worry dissipated when she saw RWBY jump from the predator to the ground. RWBY seemed unfazed. She simply transformed into rose petals and reached the ground without a scratch. Hello RWBY, how are you? I'm glad to see you, Naruto said with a big smile when he saw his first friend at the academy. He caught her by surprise and hugged her by the neck like a brother. Everyone was surprised by Naruto's change of attitude towards RWBY, since they had only seen the chivalrous and serious side of her all the time. RWBY was delighted to see Naruto, so much so that she forgot that her partner was in the clutches of the Nevermore, and they also didn't notice when she managed to escape the creature's clutches and fell towards the ground. Well, no one except Naruto. He watched her and waited for her to make a safe landing, and so it was. The Shni made a strange symbol that intrigued Naruto. It was like a snowflake and that allowed it to fall to the ground gracefully. Well, it looks like we're all going to die together, Yang said sarcastically. I won't let him get away with this, RWBY exclaimed determinedly. However, before she could run, Naruto grabbed her by the hood and looked at her in disbelief at the recklessness her friend was going to commit. RWBY, I don't want to offend you, but you can't face an enemy without having backup, Naruto warned. Oh, how familiar that sounds to me, said the fox ironically. RWBY lowered her head in shame. Naruto felt a little guilty but didn't take back what he said. Then, the blonde raised his voice and caught everyone's attention. Listen, we are in a serious situation, so we have to divide into teams. Miss Valkyrie, Mr. Lei and Miss Nikos, come with me. We will take care of the giant scorpion. You, Miss Belladonna and Miss Xiaolong, fight against that monster she's upstairs. And RWBY, you're going with them too. We have a plan. Oh, I forgot about Miss Shni, but you know where she has to go. Although I could suggest that we run to the cliff and get this over with, because that is the goal of this test, to collect these relics, I am afraid that plan will not work. These beasts will chase us to Beacon and that will make us stay evil. So we are going to face them head on and destroy them. I am not going to deceive you. I do not know you well, but I fully trust your abilities, even if I have not seen them. Have faith. The boys nodded and separated into two groups. The battle had begun. How touching. It almost made me cry, said the Kyuubi sarcastically. Okay, now how do we finish off that thing? Ren asked Naruto seriously. It's actually very easy. Pyrrha, you will give us cover from afar. Ren and I will attack its legs. Nora, prepare the strongest blow you can. You will deliver the killing blow to that creature. I see a lot of holes in that plan, Pyrrha replied. Don't worry, the plan is simple and effective. From what little I've seen, his skills are more than enough. There's no need to complicate things. The Q will be a problem, but I'll take care of it, Naruto said confidently. Naruto took out a wire of at most 2 meters from his jacket. At each end of the wire was a 30 centimeters nail with a stamp weight. Naruto smiled and prepared to use his homemade weapon. Okay, Ren, attack when I give you the signal. When I take care of its tail, you will go after its legs. Pyrrha, cover me, Naruto said and charged straight towards the Death Stalker. He slid under the beast and wrapped the wire around its tail. Then, he pulled hard and drove the 2 nails into the ground, activating the weight seals. After doing this, Ren ran over and attacked the scorpion's legs, while Naruto also helped him. They were stamping their paws incessantly. The armor was tough, but not impossible to break. Ren had it harder, but not Naruto. He put wind chakra into his blade and made cracks in the armor. When he managed to wound at least 3 legs, he climbed up the scorpion's back and stabbed his sword into its head. It wasn't a fatal blow, he did it on purpose. He called the strongest member of the group in advance. Nora raised the hammer from it and slammed it with full force against the sword's handle, instantly killing the beast. Ren, Nora and Pyrrha stood up. That's it, we did it. It was much easier than I thought, Nora exclaimed with enthusiasm and joy. Yes, that was surprisingly easy, Ren thought. Hey, Naruto, what are you doing there? She asked him. Getting my things back, Naruto responded. Very good, it seems that this ingenious device I made with a wire and 2 nails works well. You could have easily killed him alone. Why did you fight as a team? You know you didn't need it, said the Kyuubi. I know, but it was a good opportunity to see how they performed and how they worked as a team, Naruto said with a smile. Ren, Nora and Pyrrha approached him, somewhat worried about the situation. Excuse me, Naruto, don't you think we should go help the other team? Pyrrha asked him in a low voice, looking towards the cliff where her teammates were. No, it's not necessary. They know what they're doing, mind you, they're preparing. Well, whatever they're preparing, the Uzumaki responded, pointing his finger toward the place where RWBY was being launched by an improvised catapult with Blake's weapons and Weiss's glyphs. This is going to be spectacular. Don't miss it. You will surely surprise us, Naruto added, encouraging his team. And he was not wrong. It was impressive. RWBY shot straight up, where the Nevermore hovered menacingly. The young hunter placed her scythe on the giant bird's neck and took advantage of the recoil of her bullets to ascend to the top of the cliff, severing the Nevermore's head along the way and leaving a trail of blood in her wake. Wow! Ren exclaimed, impressed. Nora and Pyrrha nodded, admiring RWBY's feat. In the distance, on the top of the cliff, RWBY could be seen, standing in a triumphant pose, as if the light surrounded her completely. Suddenly, she waved her hand excitedly and shouted at the top of her lungs. Naruto, look at me, I'm here. Alright, gentlemen, we have to move, there is no time to waste, this test is over, Naruto said to the entire group, congratulating them for their work. Before taking the first step, he stopped and gave them some final instructions. Girls, you go to the front, to the vanguard. Mr. Lai and I stay behind, in the rear. We are still in the Emerald Forest, we have to be alert. There may be more dangerous creatures around here. Let's go. Dove Bronzewing, Skylark, Russell Thrush, Cardin Winchester, Ozpin announced in his deep and solemn voice. Naruto and the other initiation participants were on a stage, where Ozpin was assigning the teams that would be part of Beacon Academy. I wonder who my teammates will be, I know Pyrrha will be with me, but... Listen to me well, boy, I'm sure that you chose your team yourself, the QB told him, referring to the black-haired young man and the orange-haired girl who had collaborated with Naruto during the test. You mean Ren and Nora? I don't think so. I don't usually have that much luck, Naruto complained. That's what you say. In some ways you are unlucky, but if we went to a casino, I assure you that you would become a millionaire in a single night. Uzumaki Naruto, Lai Ren, Pyrrha Nikos, Nora Valkyrie, said the director. You four obtained the white pieces from the tower. From today, you will be known as Team NNPR, Napier. Ozpin spoke these words and the entire room applauded the group. Then shouts of joy were heard from Nora, who was hugging her friend Ren. It was clear that she was delighted to be on the same team as him. Wow, this is incredible, maybe this is my lucky day, I guess we're a team now, Naruto said to Pyrrha who was smiling with some discomfort but also with joy. Naruto didn't quite understand the reason for Pyrrha's discomfort, but he didn't think much of it. He didn't have time to worry about that, he just had to focus on passing every class and being the best in every course for the next 4 years. Led by Naruto Uzumaki, so that surprised him, because he did not expect that news. He was the team leader, that wasn't in the brochure, in fact there was no information about the initiation, so surprise. Hey, brat, not only are you part of a group, you are now the leader of that group and as a leader you have to make sure that the entire team works well. You will have to use a little of your charisma, and please, give them the thumbs up. Impossible life for me, smiled the fox. Thanks for the advice, Naruto replied sarcastically. And lastly, Ruby Rose, Weiss Schnee, Blake Belladonna, and Yang Xiaolong. The 4 girls stood firm and proud. The 4 of you managed to recover the Black Knight's parts, and that is why, from today onwards, you will form Team RWBY, RWBY, led by Ruby Rose. This was announced by Ozpin solemnly. Naruto stared at Ruby and gave her a big smile and a thumbs-up gesture, congratulating her on her appointment. Ruby blushed a little, but she felt very happy. It's great that Ruby is the leader of her team, I'm sure she's a good person, maybe I can become real friends with her. Yes, of course, and take advantage of his kindness, smart one, I like your mentality, said the fox. Well, guys, it's time to go to our bedroom, does anyone know where it is? Didn't you hear what Ozpin said? Ren asked Naruto with an amused smile. Sorry, I was a little shocked about being the leader. Don't worry, I know where we have to go, Ren said, and the rest of the group followed him through the hallways. Hey, boy, since you passed the test, don't you think we should celebrate? We could go to Vale and have a drink. No, thank you, I don't drink, I'm a minor. What does it matter? No one is going to find out, come on, cheer up. It's not because of what others say, it's because of respect for the rules. Really? Boy, don't give me that, I've seen you break the laws so many times that if it weren't for how skilled you were at escaping, you'd be behind bars, the fox reminded him. Naruto made a bored face at Zoro's talk, but suddenly something occurred to him. I think I could call him and see how he's doing. Boy, maybe he didn't even enter a hunter academy, maybe he regretted it, you only trained him for a few weeks. No, I don't think so, I'm sure he entered one, and he won't give up until he fulfills his dream, I'm going to call him right now. Yes, call him tomorrow, you better pay attention to your colleagues, they have been talking to you for a while. Fool, tell me those things before. 4 people were in a room, staring into each other's eyes, but without saying a word. Although they had formed their small team without problems or bad intentions, they did not have much trust in each other. However, That silence would not last long, as it would soon be interrupted by a cheerful girl with orange hair or a charismatic blonde with blue eyes. Come on, guys, talk something, this looks like a wake. Exclaimed Nora, who broke the silence that reigned among everyone. Miss Valkyrie has a point, Naruto said, directing his gaze to Ren and Pyrrha. Although we don't get along badly, there is still some tension between us, so let's start over. I'll introduce myself first and then. You guys, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Oh, by the way, Miss Valkyrie, have you ever been told how pretty your orange hair is? The girl blinked and smiled shyly. No, they don't tell me. Really? I don't believe it. Naruto smiled mischievously. I can't believe they don't compliment him on his radiant smile and his eyes as bright as stars. And I am Lai Ren. The black-haired boy stood between Naruto and Nora with a serious look, hiding Nora's slight blush. Naruto just raised his left eyebrow a little. Oh, interesting reaction. He smiled. Pyrrha Nikos, the red-haired girl introduced herself, a little self-conscious at having been ignored. And, I am Nora Valkyrie, the girl behind Ren spoke in a low voice, very embarrassed. Very well, ladies and gentlemen, Naruto, who was sitting on his bed, stood up and turned his back to them, stared at the window, put his hands behind his back and spoke in an authoritative voice. Very well, for this little alliance to work, I have to make something very clear. First, if you have any problem with me, tell me, don't keep it to yourself. Second, any conflict that arises between us we will resolve by talking, and if words are not enough, we will solve it with a duel to the death with knives. A duel to the death with knives? Everyone asked, confused. Yes, Naruto stated seriously. And third, if you need help, ask for it. We are here to support each other, do we agree? Yes, the three answered at the same time, satisfied by that news. Then Naruto turned and looked at them. Very well, as a sign of trust and goodwill, you will make 3 requests of me and I will fulfill them. And on my honor that is a promise, but do not overdo it. I do not want you to ask me to get a dog to make you coffee, a fish to sing you a song, or a tree to give you a hug. Immediately Nora Valkyrie lowered her hand. Then Pyrrha spoke. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's a bit. Can you be a little clearer, Pyrrha? Naruto interrupted her. I want you to treat us the same way you treat RWBY. The blonde simply looked at the redhead. Was there something wrong with how she treated people? He thought she was polite. You just wasted one of the requests. I don't understand what you mean by treating RWBY the same way. Do you want me to hug you? No, not that. It's just a little weird that you talk and act like you're someone like Weiss Schnee. Is it just that? Well, it's not that I have any problem with you, it's just that I still don't know you well. You should have waited until I had more trust with you and could be more open, but it's fine, if that's what you want. Prefer. That's how it will be, I will be closer, Naruto said. Second request. Then Nora raised her hand very strongly. Yo, I want you to make me pancakes for breakfast for 3 months. That's an excellent request, consider it done, Nora. And the third? Naruto asked the group of 3. They all looked at each other, because they couldn't think of anything. Then Ren spoke. I think we'll save it for more. Naruto put his hand in front of Ren, silencing any words he was going to say. I'm afraid it doesn't work that way. This is just this once, so think carefully. I'll give you a moment. And although they gave them a moment, nothing came to mind. I guess that's all. Then let's go to sleep. Tomorrow we have classes. A great day and a bright future awaits us, gentlemen, Pyrrha. Yes, said the redhead. You have beautiful red hair, Naruto said to Pyrrha with a wink. She just let out an amused laugh and began to organize her things. Naruto looked at that peculiar group, but in his mind he thought that this situation was perfect. He had brute force, the ninja who was ideal for field reconnaissance and an expert in combat. This was the most complete group he could wish for, and he was its leader. Hey boy, I've rarely seen anything like this in my life, commented the fox. What do you mean? Naruto asked. To those 2. Do you mean Ren and Nora? Yes, I have never seen so much romantic and sexual tension. Those 2 love each other a lot, more than they should, to be just friends. Yes, now that you mention it, they said they were together, but not together. That's an obvious lie. Or rather, they don't dare to confess their feelings to each other. Do you want to have a little fun with them? Yes, I'm going to have fun with them, Naruto thought maliciously. Naruto. Then a cheerful voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Nora. Hey, what's wrong? You were staring at us for a while. I wasn't looking at them, Naruto lied. I was just looking at you, Nora, he said in a soft and deep voice, hiding the shame in the depths of his being. Huh, Nora could only say that word in confusion. Naruto slowly approached the orange-haired girl, but a voice stopped him in his tracks. It was Ren, who was watching him suspiciously. Tomorrow we have our first day of school, Ren reminded him, so I suggest you arrange your things. Naruto just looked at him and smiled widely. You're right, Ren. Tomorrow will be the big day. I'm going to have a lot of fun with them, she thought. Meanwhile, Pyrrha watched the scene curiously. She didn't know what Naruto was up to, but it seemed to her that it had something to do with Ren and Nora. Slash dash slash. Snoring could be heard in the NNPR team's room. Everyone was sleeping peacefully in their beds. They seemed unchanged, but the sound of a bell brought them out of their peaceful sleep. This made everyone in the room wake up with a start. Even Ren fell out of bed from shock. Of course, everyone except Naruto. He was the one making the noise. What time is it? Pyrrha asked, still sleepy and upset. It's 7 a.m., Naruto answered. So early, said the redhead. Classes start at 8 a.m., so we have an hour to get ready, Naruto said. What? I want to keep sleeping, Nora complained, very bad-tempered. Nora, how are you? Good morning, here's your breakfast, said Naruto, who was carrying a tray with many pancakes on it. He had a cup of coffee and a couple of cutlery and a lot of maple honey spilled on the tower of pancakes. I'm glad you're awake. Naruto walked over to her and put the tray on Nora's lap. The orange-haired girl's mood quickly changed to effusive joy, as she did not expect Naruto to actually comply with her request. Naruto took the cutlery and cut a pancake into small pieces, took a small piece and put it to Nora's lips. She was confused, but she didn't think anything of it and tried it. Naruto smiled and brushed off the dirty face Ren was giving him. Maybe Ren's displeased expression was subtle to everyone, but not to Naruto. She opened her eyes wide. The pancakes were delicious. This was one of the few talents that Naruto had developed in this world. Living alone, he had to learn to cook, since he was following a diet along with his 2 years of training, which forced him to learn to prepare his own food. Nora quickly snatched the cutlery from Naruto and began to eat the pancakes hungrily. It seems that you were fascinated by Nora. She just nodded, because she didn't have time to talk, she just wanted to taste. Naruto turned around and looked at Pyrrha and Ren. Hey guys, hurry up, put on your uniform. It's not to my taste, but it's not that bad, Naruto said, pointing to himself. He had already put on the uniform ago. After a while, the two nodded and did as he said. Meanwhile, Pyrrha got out of bed and went to the bathroom. She looked in the mirror and combed her red hair, put on her uniform, adjusted the brooch with the Beacon Academy emblem and put on her black shoes. She looked in the mirror again and smiled. She was excited for her first day of school. She hoped to learn a lot and make new friends. Slash dash slash. So, I grabbed that Beowulf by the neck and pressed his eyes with my thumb. Wow, this class is not what I expected, it's boring. Naruto lamented in his thoughts, trying not to fall asleep. Pay attention boy, the Kyuubi told him. But why? I know how to kill one of those beasts. Doing something and doing it efficiently are different things, boy, you should learn what. Yes, whatever you say, Naruto replied boringly, interrupting the fox. I'm surprised that RWBY arrived late. What would she be doing all this morning? Surely yesterday they didn't organize their things and today they came up with the great idea to do it. So when I fought that grim boar, I just stepped away and pushed it with my right foot, turned it over and... Gym Studies Professor Peter Port continued. So, this guy really likes to talk a lot, Naruto commented boredly. Believe it or not, this guy is teaching you. In fact, if I see the looks of all the students here, I realize that none of them are really paying attention to him, except for the redhead and that white-haired human, he said. The fox. I wonder if everything he says really happened. In fact, I don't find lies in his words. He really killed that thing that way, or he has an altered perception of reality and believes that that really happened, but despite his years he is still very active, he said. The fox. Yes, this teacher, Peter, is indeed very peculiar. Peter Port was a man who was possibly around 56 years old. He wore a wine-colored suit with gold lines and buttons of the same tone running along his neck and wrists. He had gray hair and mustache, and he seemed to be a little chubby. You know, I take it back, the human in white is not paying attention. It seems like she is more interested in picking a fight with your friend. Naruto then looked far ahead of the seats and saw that Weiss and RWBY were having a small argument, an argument that was being done in low voices. It seems that the human is jealous of your friend, Naruto, the Kyuubi told him in a funny way. Why would Weiss be jealous of RWBY? I don't know boy, maybe because he entered the most important hunter academy in the remnant 2 years before, maybe also because he is the leader of his team. And well, I can't think of anything else. Maybe because, does she have more breasts than her? At that comment Naruto laughed silently. Wow, you really know how to put humor into these things, but you're right, although she shouldn't be jealous of RWBY, she should be supporting her, after all they will be together for 4 years. A hunter must be fast, strong, intelligent, cunning, he must be wise and lead his companions to victory if necessary. Who thinks he has all this? Peter asked, challenging his audience. Me sir, that's what Weiss said, raising her hand proudly. She really doesn't waste time proving herself, Naruto thought. Then, Weiss left the classroom and changed her uniform for her combat clothing. She arrived with her weapon, Murdernaster. That's what she heard her name was. Alright, guys, I hope you're ready, Miss Schnee, here's what. I have a surprise. And behind the professor there was a grim boar locked in a cage, it was impressive. So that thing is going to fight Weiss. Let's hope this is fun. And moments later she realized that this was more disappointing than fun. Come on, Weiss, are you serious? Port just taught us how to kill that thing in one of his stories, how come? It doesn't matter. Naruto stopped paying attention, he was clearly disappointed. Weiss, the stomach. It doesn't have armor there. RWBY exclaimed, almost shouting again, supporting her partner, apparently oblivious to the increasingly angry look that Weiss was having. Stop telling me what to do. Weiss's exclamation was almost a scream full of rage as she looked at RWBY after having recovered her rapier and dodged the grim. Naruto sighed inwardly. Seriously, Weiss has no qualms about showing her displeasure to RWBY. Well, I'll talk to RWBY later. I don't understand why you are going to do it. Concentrate, you have another class, don't waste your time. The fox told him. I won't, Naruto said firmly. Idiot brat. Once classes were over for the day, everyone left quietly, but RWBY separated from her group. She was alone in a corner of the hallways. Naruto just stared at her for a few minutes, wondering what he could do to cheer her up. Wow, it looks like the floor is just as comfortable as the first time, RWBY. RWBY raised her head to see her friend. Naruto, how are you? RWBY said in a discouraged manner. She didn't have the courage to continue talking. Leave me, I'll keep you company. Then Naruto approached and sat on the floor next to her. And how have you been? Very good. Although RWBY tried to sound very positive, her tone of voice did not reflect it. I heard the argument with Miss Schnee. Yes, the whole class heard it. The two stood in an awkward silence, neither knowing what to say until RWBY broke the silence. Do you think Ozpin was wrong? Naruto raised his eyebrow. It's very possible. Upon hearing that, RWBY lowered her head. Ozpin is not free from making mistakes. He is a human being after all. But you're just starting, RWBY. It's your first day. Don't expect everything to turn out right from the beginning. It never works that way. You have a lot to learn and a lot of time to do it. Miss Schnee is right that you are inexperienced, but that's what you're here for. Don't worry, with the time you'll spend in this place all the shortcomings you have will be overcome. Upon hearing that, RWBY simply smiled. I wish I was more like you. You know, you performed incredibly well at the initiation and were a great leader from the beginning. Hearing that, Naruto gave a wistful smile and looked lost into space. You know, when I was studying at Empire Academy, Naruto had to lie in those parts of the story. I wasn't even remotely close to what I am now. I was a complete disaster, RWBY. I was mediocre at best. Cases, I was not good at all and I caused a lot of problems for my teachers. And how did you become so impressive? RWBY asked innocently and without believing what she was telling him. The Naruto she saw now was so incredible and confident, very different from how Naruto himself described himself. Consistency, RWBY. Consistency. We have to be constant in everything we do, when things get bad or when you already think that nothing can be done. The only thing we can do is be constant, keep going and not stop. Things didn't start well for you, RWBY, but keep moving forward. Even if you think you're really worthless and feel like your efforts aren't bearing fruit, someone will eventually notice. I'll notice. And when you feel inadequate and useless, I will hit you on the head to bring you back to your senses, and I hope you will do the same for me. Hearing that, RWBY simply laughed out loud. She couldn't believe the last thing she heard. You're very good at cheering people up, Naruto. I know, it's one of my great talents. Well, RWBY. Naruto stood up from the floor and held out his hand for her to get up. We have to go to our rooms. They did not realize that this conversation was overheard by the principal, who was staring at these two students. I couldn't have said it better, Mr. Uzumaki. I'm tired. I don't understand. I think my brain is going to explode. Nora exclaimed out loud, frustrated by her task. Rini, can you help me? No, Nora, you have to figure it out yourself. I'm not going to do your homework. Ren replied firmly. Nora pouted and said to Ren, Bad, you're a bad friend. But before Ren could answer him, the door burst open and Naruto walked in, interrupting their little argument. The missing one has arrived, little ones. What's going on here? Naruto said with a smirk. They all turned towards the door and saw that it was their leader, the one who always encouraged and motivated them. Don't worry, Ren, I'm also talking about you. You're a very cute little girl. He winked at Ren. Naruto, I don't understand this topic, please help me. Rini and Pira don't want to help me. Nora complained about her, showing him her notebook full of unsolved problems. It seems like you're in a bind, my friend Nora. Don't worry, I'll help you. I'm a genius, after all. Naruto told him confidently. You have to do your homework too, Naruto. Where were you all day? Pira asked him, who was sitting in the corner of the room, reading a book. Out there, doing leader things. But don't worry about me, my lovely Pira. I already finished my homework a while ago. She lied to Naruto, who who had actually been wandering around the campus doing nothing. Nora, I'm going to help you. We'll do our homework together. In the team room there was only a small table that served as a desk, but it was too small to fit 2 people. So Naruto motioned for Nora to come over to her bed. Nora, come here, Naruto told him, pointing to his bed. Nora innocently climbed into bed with Naruto, not realizing that this could be misinterpreted. They were together, shoulder to shoulder, looking at Nora's notebook. Alright, let's get started. But I see that you're a little ahead, so wait for me until I catch up with you. While Naruto was solving his tasks, he took the opportunity to talk to his teammates, without looking away from his notebook. Guys, listen. While I was around the Beacon campus, I found a place to train. It's a secret place, only I know about it. No lie, we'll do that after school. We'll have lunch, and we'll go do a little session of 2 hours of study. After that, we will start training. We will do this 7 days a week, without exception. Understand? Ren, Nora, and Pyrrha looked at each other and nodded. Yes. They said in unison, trusting their leader. Naruto, without looking away from the notebook, smiled. He really liked that his team was so collaborative with him. And he smiled evilly, thinking of what he awaited them. They should have refused, he was going to make them sweat like never before. Buarg. That was the sound that could be heard in the training ground that Naruto had chosen for his team. It was Ren, who couldn't hold it in anymore and was vomiting into a bush. The training had been very hard. Next to him, on the ground, were Nora and Pyrrha, who were breathing hard, trying to catch their breath. They were covered in sweat and dust, and their muscles ached. The training had also been very demanding for them, who were formidable warriors. Next to them was Naruto, who was also tired, but not as tired as his companions. He had been the one who had designed the training, and he knew how to dose his energy. He was proud of his team, who had held out until the end, without giving up. Well, guys, you really surprise me. Naruto told them with a smile. Buasura. She vomited again. Ren, who couldn't even speak. Ren, stop, you're making us look bad in front of the girls. Naruto told him jokingly, trying to ease the tension. Ren gave him the middle finger in response, still vomiting. And I thought I trained hard, what I did is nothing compared to what you do. Pyrrha said in admiration, looking at Naruto. She was one of the strongest at Beacon Academy, and had participated in many combat tournaments. But she had never experienced training as intense as Naruto's. Alright, guys, we'll leave it for today. With this I already have an idea of your physical capabilities. Ren, you have the worst stamina among all of us, you have to improve that. And girls, you are impressive in every way. Naruto told them sincerely, recognizing their strengths and weaknesses. Tomorrow we will measure our abilities, I look forward to it. Naruto added excitedly. He wanted to see how his companions would perform in a real fight, using their weapons and his likenesses. He was very curious to know theirs, since he didn't have any. Yes, I hope so too. Ren said with obvious discouragement in her voice. He didn't share Naruto's enthusiasm. Naruto saw the 2 girls, who were still on the ground, without moving. Nora, Pyrrha, can you move? Naruto asked them with concern. Yeah, Pyrrha said in a weak voice. She rose with effort, leaning on her spear. She was strong, and she did not let herself be overcome by fatigue. She wanted to prove to Naruto that she was worthy of being his partner. Me too, but the truth is that I don't want to do it. Nora said honestly. She stayed on the ground, hugging her hammer. She didn't feel like moving, she just wanted to rest. Naruto put on a wide, evil smile, and approached Nora. He bent down from her to the redhead's height and lifted her into her arms, as if she were a bride. Naruto. That was what Nora exclaimed, a little upset. She didn't expect that gesture from Naruto, and she blushed. She felt the heat of his body, and the beating of his heart. She didn't know what to think or what to do. She just held on to him, not letting go of his cock. And you don't want me to carry you on my back, Pyrrha? I can do it. She offered Naruto to Pyrrha, who looked at him in surprise. He was very chivalrous, and wanted to help his colleagues. He had no problem carrying them, since he was very strong. And no, I don't think it's necessary. Pyrrha said self-consciously. She didn't want Naruto to carry her, as he seemed too intimate to her. What? Pyrrha, don't worry, I can actually, but before Naruto could finish his sentence, he felt an extra weight on his back. It was Ren, who had climbed onto his back, without asking permission. Then take me, Ren said with a frown. I'm tired too. Ren justified himself, not wanting to walk. He took the opportunity for Naruto to offer, and climbed onto his back. Naruto simply raised his shoulders, dismissing it, but amused by the situation. Okay, let's go to the cafeteria. I want to eat something. Naruto told them happily. Quote exclamation mark. Yeah, Nora said happily, still in her arms. She also wanted to eat something, and forget about training. Slash dash slash. N Naruto, please put me down. Everyone is looking at us. She begged Nora to Naruto, who was carrying her down the academy hallway. She felt uncomfortable because of the curious and mocking looks of the other students, who pointed and whispered at them. I know. Don't tell me you're embarrassed. Naruto asked mischievously, ignoring his plea. He enjoyed the situation, and he liked to provoke Nora. He knew that she was very expressive, and that she got nervous easily. Nora put on a brave face, and tried to hide her blush. And no, of course not. I'm never ashamed of anything. Nora replied proudly, blatantly lying. Oh really? The blonde simply stared at her, as if she were admiring something. You know, you have beautiful eyes, nothing like the ones I've ever seen in my life. Naruto said sweetly, bringing his face closer to hers. He spoke to her as if she were a princess, and he looked at her as if she were the only woman in the world. Stop talking like that. You're doing it again, Nora demanded, looking away from her. She didn't know how to react to Naruto's praise, which confused and excited her. She didn't know if he meant it, or if it was just a joke. My lady, my heart belongs to you since the first day I saw you. Naruto declared passionately, hugging her tighter. He spoke to her as if he were a gentleman, and he treated her as if she were his girlfriend. He told her what she felt, without fear or shame. Stop, Nora exclaimed, this time completely red with embarrassment. She couldn't stand the words anymore, she wanted to escape from her arms. It's been a long time since I've felt this way. You, miss, have captivated me with your wonderful presence. I've never loved anyone like you in my life. You're choking me, Ren. Naruto complained, interrupting his speech. Yes, that was Ren, who was on his back, and who was squeezing his neck with his arms. He was sick of listening to Naruto's nonsense, and wanted him to shut up. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Ren apologized, loosening her grip on him a little. He didn't want to kill Naruto. He couldn't stand Naruto being so brazen. Ha ha ha, you really squeeze very hard for being so thin. Naruto laughed, not getting angry. He didn't hold a grudge against Ren. On the contrary, it seemed to him that he turned his head a little to look at Ren, and smiled perversely. Wow, one would think you'd be jealous. What's wrong? Naruto asked him maliciously, hinting at something. He wanted to provoke Ren, and see his reaction. I do not know what you're talking about, Ren said, looking away. He didn't want to get into Naruto's game, and it bothered him that he said those things to him. He wasn't jealous, nor did he care what Naruto did. Oh really? Naruto said with a smile. He did not believe Ren's words, and continued to insist. He wanted Ren to let go, and express himself. Oh really? Ren said firmly. He didn't want to continue talking to Naruto, and cut him off. It seems like you're acting a little hostile since I have Nora in my arms. Naruto told him curiously. He could tell that Ren was upset. You're imagining things. Ren responded indifferently, denying her accusation. He wasn't hostile, he was just tired, and he wanted to get to his destination. He didn't care what Naruto did with Nora. Yes, maybe they are my things. The blonde said in a sing-song way, accepting his answer. He did not want to insist further, and left the subject. Yes, they are your things. Ren repeated very seriously, confirming his conclusion. Oh, my beautiful and wonderful Nora, I cannot express how incredible it feels to have you in my arms, to be able to hold you. He said Naruto again, addressing Nora, who was still in his arms. He complimented her again, and hugged her. Stop it, Naruto. I'm getting tired. I'm going to hit you. Nora shouted, very red with shame. She couldn't stand Naruto's attention anymore, which made her nervous and excited. She wanted to escape from his arms. A blow from you would truly be wonderful. Just feeling your skin against mine would give me joy, even if the pain overwhelms my senses. You don't know how lucky I feel. Naruto told him, not scared by his threat. Naruto was anxious and excited. The day had finally arrived that he had been waiting for so long since he arrived at Beacon Academy, since he passed the initiation test, since he attended his first classes. The day he would have his first combat class, the most important one for him and many others. The day he could demonstrate his skills as a fighter, and face other aspiring hunter students. The day when he could feel the adrenaline of a battle, and make his opponent sweat. So far, he had not been disappointed. Although he had not yet had to fight, he had seen others fight, and he had been impressed. The first combatants had been some students that he did not know, but who had surprised him with their combat techniques, their incredible weapons, and their spectacular movements. He had carefully observed every detail, and had promised himself that one day he would imitate them, or surpass them. He thought this was incredible, and that it was what he had come for. And now, he had been called to the podium. His name had been selected at random by a machine, and someone had accepted the challenge to fight him. Now, he stood in front of the enemy, ready for action. He was stretching his arms and legs, preparing for combat. She had to give an incredible performance, after all. He wanted to impress everyone, and prove that he was the best. He wanted to have fun, and enjoy the fight. He wanted to win, and be respected. Very well, let's repeat the rules, said Glinda, the teacher in charge of the combat class. She was a beautiful and elegant woman, who commanded respect and authority. She was an experienced hunter, and a strict teacher. She was in charge of supervising the fights, and making sure that the rules were followed. Naruto stood at attention like a soldier, and looked at her in admiration. He was fascinated by Glinda's beauty, which shone like the sun, and by her wisdom, which was eternal as time. Wow, it's like every day that passes she becomes more beautiful. Is that even possible? Naruto said quietly, looking askance at Glinda, and feeling a slight blush on her cheeks. He was in love with Glinda, and he couldn't help it. He saw her as a goddess, and as an inspiration. He wanted to be like her, and be with her. You're drooling, the QB told him, the voice that echoed in his head. Naruto wiped his mouth with his sleeve, hearing the QB's words. He was ashamed, and tried to hide it. The combat ends when the aura, Glinda said, pointing to a screen, where the image of Naruto and the combatant she was going to fight could be seen. Next to the images of him, there were bars that marked the amount of aura they had. The aura was the vital energy of each person, which allowed them to use their special abilities, called semblance. The aura also served as armor, protecting them from attacks. But the aura was not infinite, and it could be exhausted. It will turn red, when the time runs out, or if you leave the combat arena. Is that understood? Glinda said with authority, explaining the conditions to end the fight. Naruto nodded his head, and looked at his opponent. He was ready to fight, and to win. He wasn't going to let his chakra run out, or time run out, or be taken out of the arena. He was going to give it his all, and beat his rival. He was sure of himself, and of his power. He was Naruto, the future hunter. A boy named Jimmy looked at his opponent. He didn't know him at all, but he decided to challenge him and he was happy to fight. He had a kind of hand covered with steel resembling a robotic hug and in it he had a javelin-type spear. He had a red leather shirt, black pants and combat boots as well as dark glasses. A very stylish boy, Naruto had to admit. I hope you're ready to bite the dust, Naruto. Jimmy smiled arrogantly and Naruto was not far behind. With the same arrogance he unsheathed his sword and pointed at his opponent. I hope you are more than qualified to back up your words, sir. I wouldn't want to leave disappointed. Naruto got into a fighting stance, took the katana with both hands, and crouched slightly, waiting for Glinda's signal to start the fight. He felt his heart pounding, and his blood rushing through his veins. He was eager to get started, and to show what he was capable of. Very good. She raised her hand, and then lowered it, giving the signal, begin. Naruto smiled, tensed, and launched himself into the attack. It was so fast that Jimmy, his opponent, was unable to react in time, neither to avoid it nor to block it. It was too fast. He raised his katana, and then brought it down, striking Jimmy's chest with brutal force. Jimmy's aura flickered blue, then quickly shattered, like broken glass. A shock wave echoed through the class, causing the ground and the air to tremble. Jimmy was thrown out of the arena, like a rag doll, and he didn't stop there. He crashed into the classroom wall, piercing it, and ending up outside the classroom, in the nearby courtyard, where many students saw him fall, unconscious and bleeding. Everyone looked at Jimmy's body, in horror and amazement. Nobody could believe what had just happened. Naruto opened his eyes, just as surprised as the others. He didn't understand what he had done. He glanced at his sword, which was stained with blood, lightly. He looked at the screen, at the aura meter, and noticed that Jimmy was in the red, with practically no aura. He didn't understand what had happened. He looked at everyone in the class, who had their eyes wide open, just as surprised as he was. Glinda was also surprised, and worried. She didn't expect Naruto to be so strong, nor so violent. What the hell just happened? Naruto wondered in his mind, not finding an answer. He didn't know how he had been able to defeat Jimmy so easily, with a single punch. He hadn't used that much force, he had just tested the waters, to see what his opponent was like. He hadn't wanted to hurt him, or humiliate him. Well, you won, the QB told him, with a mocking voice. But how? Naruto asked him, not understanding. He didn't know how he had been able to win so easily, without using his power to the fullest. He didn't understand how Jimmy had been so weak, without putting up any resistance. Well, you raised your sword, then you lowered it, you hit the boy's chest and well, he flew into the air. The QB said boredly, explaining what had happened. He was not impressed by Naruto's victory, on the contrary, he found it boring and predictable. He knew that Naruto was much stronger than Jimmy, and any other student at the academy. But that's impossible, I didn't use so much force, I shouldn't have been defeated so easily. Naruto said, not quite understanding it. He assumed these were would-be hunters, fighters training to face Grim and other enemies. He thought they were strong, or at least strong enough to give him a good fight. He remembered that in his dimension, he had a hard time defeating a ninja, even the weakest ones. The fox just laughed, amused by Naruto's naivety. He revealed to him what he had already suspected for a long time. This is what I assumed, you are much stronger than we estimated. The QB told him, making Naruto understand the situation. What are you talking about? Naruto asked him, not understanding him. But how is that possible? Hunters are incredibly strong, I've seen videos of how they fight and what they can do. No, it shouldn't be possible that I can defeat such a would-be hunter. Easily, I have seen their fights in tournaments, something is wrong. Naruto said, not believing it. He had seen the hunters in action, and had been amazed by their skills. He had seen how they used his weapons, his likenesses, and his dust. He had seen how they fought against the Grim, and against other hunters. He thought they were amazing, and that they could do things he couldn't. He didn't realize that he was so much more amazing, and that he could do things they couldn't. Naruto, even before I trained you, you could defeat a horde of Grim alone. Do you seriously think these morons would have enough strength to perform such a feat? The fox asked him, mocking him. Yeah, Naruto said insistently. He still thought that hunters were capable of doing the same thing as him, or more. The Grim have existed for thousands of years, I understand, and they are millions of millions and the hunters are a few thousand. To retain those creatures for so long they must be incredibly strong. Very soon you will know, brat, that not only strength is needed to defeat an enemy superior to you. The fox told him wisely. Naruto understood absolutely nothing of what was happening. Everything around him became soundproof. He didn't hear anything Glinda said, he didn't hear when she named him the winner, when his team cheered him on, when everyone talked among themselves admiring his feat of defeating his opponent in one blow and so quickly. Naruto looked at each of the students in that room, he looked at his classmates, at RWBY, at RWBY's team, his gaze was lost and in shock. He didn't know what to do, or what to say. He just knew that something had changed, and that nothing would ever be the same. Oh my god, these guys are so weak. Naruto was studying in the library, along with his teammates, Nora, Ren, and Pira. They had decided to review what they had learned in classes. They wanted to be the best, and for that they had to study. But Nora didn't agree with that. She was bored of reading books, and doing exercises. She wanted to have fun, and do more exciting things. Why do we have to do this? Nora exclaimed at the top of her lungs in the library, where she clearly shouldn't have done so. Her scream broke the silence of the place, and attracted the attention of everyone present. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with annoyance, and others with indifference. She didn't notice her, nor did she care. She just wanted to express her discontent. What thing? Naruto asked, confused. He didn't know what Nora meant, or why she was yelling like that. Study. We have already come from classes and we are still studying. Why do we do it? Nora said, with frustration. She wanted to do something else, something more fun and relaxing. She wanted to leave the library, and the academy. Naruto looked at her, and then set his gaze on Ren. He expected him to explain to Nora why they had to study. Can you explain? She asked Naruto to Ren, with a pleading look. Ren sighed, resigned. He knew that Nora was stubborn, and that she didn't like to study. Nora, we have to train the mind, as well as the body. Ren told him, calmly. Yes, but we've been doing this for 2 weeks now. Can't we do something else? Nora asked him, hopefully. She acknowledged that Ren was right, and that studying was important. She didn't want to contradict him, or disobey him. She admired him, and she followed him. She wanted it, and she obeyed it. But she also wanted to do something else, something that she liked more. She wanted to change her routine, and her environment. Like what? Naruto asked, curiously. I don't know, how to go to Vale, to enjoy the surroundings. Nora suggested, with enthusiasm. She wanted to go to the city of Vale, which was close to the academy. She wanted to see the streets, the shops, and the people. She wanted to try the food, the music, and the fun. Yes, you have a good point, we should rest right now. Ren granted him, understandingly. Naruto stared into space, thinking about Nora's proposal. Okay, we will do it, but not today, it's Tuesday, we will do it on Friday, okay. Naruto proposed to them, with a smile. He offered them a compromise, and a solution. Yeah, Nora exclaimed, with joy. She accepted Naruto's proposal, and thanked him. Pira was looking at her companions, intently. She was very happy with how things were developing. She had a good leader, and some good friends, who really cared about her. At first, she thought it was going to be complicated, regarding her and her status as her champion. She thought that others would see her with envy, or with fear. She thought that others would treat her with distance, or with reverence. She thought that others would not accept her or understand her. But things happened very well. The others saw her with respect and admiration. The others treated her with kindness, and with trust. The others accepted her, and understood her. She felt part of the team, and of the academy. She felt happy, and fulfilled. Pira wanted to talk to Naruto, and give him advice. She had noticed that Naruto had some problems relating to the other girls at the academy, especially Blake, Yang, and Weiss. She knew that Naruto was very sociable, and that he got along well with everyone, but she also noticed that he was very reserved, and that he didn't trust people easily. She thought that Naruto should try to get closer to them, and form a friendship. She thought that would be good for him, and for the team. You know what, Naruto? Pyrrha told him, her voice soft and kind. She wanted to get Naruto's attention, and make a suggestion. She wanted to be his friend, and his partner. She wanted him to be happy, and for him to feel comfortable. Naruto answered, curiously. He stopped reading his book, and looked at Pyrrha. He was interested in what she had to say, and paid attention to her. You should, maybe, get along a little better with Blake, Yang and Weiss. Pyrrha advised, gently. She didn't want to offend Naruto, nor criticize him. She just wanted to help him, and guide him. She told him that she should treat them more friendly, like them and RWBY. She told him that it had been 2 weeks since they arrived at the academy, and that it was time for him to integrate more with them. Naruto raised an eyebrow, surprised. He didn't expect that advice, nor did he understand why he gave it to him. He thought that he got along very well with them, and that he didn't have any problems with any of the three. He thought they were good people, and that he respected them. He thought that he didn't need to do anything else, or anything different. But I get along very well with them. I don't think I've fallen out with any of the three. Except for Yang, we have a history, but it's beside the point. Naruto answered him, sincerely. No, I mean you should treat them more friendly, like us and RWBY. Pyrrha insisted, patiently. She explained to Naruto that it was not about antagonizing each other, nor about fighting. She told him that it was about getting closer, and sharing. She told him that he should try to get to know them better, and show them the softer side of her. She told him that he should try to form a bond with them, and be her friend. If that's it, don't worry, it will take time, but in the end I will form some kind of bond with them, but not for the moment. Naruto told him, calmly. He thanked Pyrrha for her advice. Pyrrha stayed silent, unable to continue the conversation. She felt sad, and disappointed. She wanted Naruto to get along better with them, and for him to be her friend. She wanted Naruto to open up more, and trust them. Naruto realized that he had killed his partner's spirits, and tried to lighten the mood. He didn't want Pyrrha to feel bad, or angry with him. You know, Pyrrha, Naruto told him, with a mischievous smile. He wanted to talk to Pyrrha, and tell her something about her. He wanted to play a joke on her, and see her reaction. Yeah, she asked him, curiously. She forgot about her sadness, and she became interested in what he had to say. When I got here, I had this dream. I dream about someone. I don't know who it is. I don't know if you would have seen her. Naruto confessed, with mystery. I don't think that's how dreams work. Pyrrha told him, logically. She explained to Naruto that dreams were not premonitions, nor messages. She told him that the dreams were just reflections of his thoughts, or his desires. She told him that it didn't make sense for him to dream about someone she didn't know, nor for her to know him. I know, but it's just in case. Naruto told him, mischievously. Let's see, tell me what this person is like. Pyrrha told him, with interest. She got carried away by curiosity, and asked Naruto to describe the woman in her dream. She wanted to know what she was like, and what she liked about her. She wanted to know if she was pretty, and if he was attracted to her. She wanted to know if she was real, and if she knew her. She is a very tall woman. She passes me by, what is it? 15 centimeters. I have no idea. She has a beautiful smile. To be honest, an incredible figure. Well, the truth is I don't know if you recognize her, but I think it's destiny. She has beautiful red hair. She has beautiful green eyes. She described Naruto to him, in detail. He painted Pyrrha a portrait of the woman from her dream, and told her what she looked like. And what else? Pyrrha asked, a note of distrust in her voice. She had realized that Naruto was talking about someone very similar to her, and that was no coincidence. She had realized that Naruto was playing with her, and that it was an advance on her part. She had realized that Naruto was flirting with her, and that it was a compliment. Her name starts with P, and well, she is very sweet, but at the same time very brave. She is very confident in her combat skills, and she is not afraid of anything. Naruto told him, with a mischievous smile. He gave Pyrrha the final clue, and revealed the name of the woman from her dream. Pyrrha blushed and giggled nervously, knowing full well where this was going. The truth is that I don't remember many details. I just know that she is beautiful in every way. She is incredibly strong. When I see her fight she leaves me breathless and I can't help but look at some parts of her body more than others. And Naruto, see enough please. But she is always sincere with me and cares a lot about me. Do you know who she is? Maybe you have seen her. Maybe she is one of the students here. I dream about her because maybe it is destiny. Do you know? Who am I talking about, Pyrrha? I don't know. Pyrrha stammered. What a shame. What about you, Ren? Do you have any idea who he is? Naruto said, enjoying making his teammates nervous. No, Ren answered dryly. And you, Nora? I think I have a suspicion of who it is, but I'm not sure. Nora said. What a pity, I would like to tell you that you snore very loudly at night, just like your other orange-haired partner, and that today you used my shampoo to shower. You were so exhausted from the days of training that you didn't notice. At that moment Pyrrha smelled her hair embarrassed, she hadn't noticed that detail. She doesn't snore at night. What did you say, Pyrrha? I'm saying she doesn't snore at night, maybe it was just your thing. I'm sure he was snoring, yes, I'm very sure. No, I think you're making it up. Pyrrha replied. I do not think so. Naruto leaned back and sighed. I hope I find her one day, who knows? Maybe she'll be out there staring at me, with her face flushed and her shoulders shaking from pure shame, exactly like you. Naruto. Yes, she yelled at me like that once. You know Pyrrha, I think you know her. Don't lie to me, tell me who she is. Naruto said very seriously. You know, I never tire of admiring this place, I always find it impressive, Naruto says to his demonic host, who resides inside. Yes, brat, the technology of this world is far above that of our dimension. The QB answers him, with a tone of amazement and curiosity. Naruto finds himself in Professor Glinda Goodwich's combat class, the only subject the Uzumaki looks forward to all day. He is addicted to battle, although she has a hard time admitting it. Very well, I hope you are ready for combat, says the voice of Professor Goodwich, who is supervising the confrontation. Today Naruto faces the cop team, made up of 2 boys and 2 girls. I hope you are ready, Mr. Uzumaki, since you insisted on facing an entire team. Yes, Naruto had realized that, well, the vast majority, if not all of Beacon's students, were infinitely inferior to him in combat and power. The first week he felt very frustrated, the combat classes seemed interesting, of course, but when it was his turn to fight, no enemy posed a challenge. He restrained himself so that the fight would last at least a few minutes, but he had not pushed any of them to the limit. The only way he felt tired was when he ran away to the Emerald Forest to train and created clones to fight him. He has fought almost everyone of his kind, surprisingly he has not yet fought Pyrrhanikos, but that fight would come sooner or later. However, Naruto doubted that he would actually have a hard time beating Pyrrha, so he had been holding himself back a lot in class. He tried not to get bored, but it was almost impossible. So when he went to fight, he would ask 2 people to fight against him, 3 people against him or an entire team against him. And so far he hadn't lost a single match, although he had to admit that sometimes he was surprised by the different unique abilities that each person had. They caught him off guard, but nothing that he couldn't overcome. Yes, I am ready for anything that may happen, Miss Goodwich. Naruto tells him, with a self-assured smile. Glinda nods in response. You know the rules, so get in position. Naruto. What's wrong, Mr. Kohler? I hope you know what you're doing. Don't worry about me, worry about your team. My team doesn't need me to protect it, get ready because we're going to give it our all. I hope so, the blonde looks at them intently and smiles friendly. I hope they give me more of a fight than the last group that faced me. Damn conceited fawn, I'm going to make you swallow your words. Naruto takes out the sword on his back and smiles at the opposing team, especially Miss Parkson. Hello Naruto, how are you? I'm much better now that I see you, how did you sleep last night? Very good, the girl responds, blushing a little. I'm glad, the truth is that although our first meeting was not the most pleasant, I hope we can get along as well as now. If you want, I can buy you a coffee after this. Naruto smiles widely at him, with a seductive look. Why yes, I would love Naruto, the girl is already totally blushing. Stop flirting, Kohler shouts, very annoyed. You're right, it's a fight, I'm sorry, I apologize for this little interruption, Miss Goodwich. Ready, start now, Glinda announces the start of the fight. I don't care how many times I face these guys, they are nothing compared to the ones I have faced before, even if I have fun here, they are still not a challenge for me. The blonde thinks. Miss Parkson, you have a beautiful smile, Naruto says sweetly, making the girl shudder and cover her face, hiding her blush. Fight once and for all, don't waste time. Damn it, don't distract her Naruto. Naruto does not pay attention to the team leader, he simply continues admiring the young girl. She has beautiful eyes. Yang let out a cry of frustration as she tried to hit her opponent. Stop dodging, you bastard! He exclaimed angrily. Naruto moved with agility and calm, avoiding the blonde's punches and kicks. Yang, you're very impulsive, seriously, you should calm down a little, he told her with a mocking smile. Shut up, she responded, increasing her fury. I have to admit that you are a great hand-to-hand fighter, Naruto praised her, while giving her a look of challenge. Enough talk and serious fighting. I'm going to. Ouch. Yang felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, causing her to fall to the ground. You should also talk less. Look at my hands. That's a lesson, Naruto advised her, as he moved a little away from her. Oh, Ruby, this hurts just to see it, commented Blake, who was watching the scene from the stands. Honestly, what's happening doesn't seem fair to me at all, Weiss said, with a disgusted expression. Yes, Ruby, Yang's younger sister, agreed, her silver eyes full of concern. That day, all the students were in combat class, witnessing a totally unequal battle between two blondes, one who dodged and hit at the right moments, and the other who attacked his rival with blind rage. And although it may not seem like it, this was a very common sight, since these two students faced each other at least twice a week. It seemed that Yang had some sort of rivalry with the Uzumaki, and he always challenged him to a duel when he could. Suddenly, a gasp was heard. Naruto had delivered a hard blow to Yang's stomach, which left her breathless. He withdrew and gave her distance, waiting for her to recover. Miss Goodwitch, I think you should stop the fight, Naruto suggested, addressing the teacher who was supervising the fight. Never, Yang exclaimed, straining her voice. This is not over yet, not until my aura is red, she stated, as he stood up with difficulty. She was completely exhausted from the battle, no one had pushed her to those limits except her father and her uncle. But this blonde was challenging her, both mentally and physically, and he was wearing her down. But, deep down, she was enjoying this fight, rarely could anyone keep up with her. However, she was frustrated because Naruto didn't look tired, and he hadn't landed any hits on her. She lunged directly at the Uzumaki, trying to hit him with all her might, but he dodged her skillfully, without losing his smile. In one of her many moves, she got careless, left an opening in her defense and her opponent took advantage of it. With 2 fingers of her right hand, she hit him on the left shoulder. What was that? A caress? She asked, without feeling her blow. Yes, one that relaxes the muscles. You won't be able to move that arm anymore, he explained, with a tone of satisfaction. Then, she realized that the hand with which she hit her shoulder had left her entire left arm incapacitated, she couldn't move it or feel it. Surrender, Yang, he urged her, with a look of superiority. Never, she shouted, enraged. Immediately, Naruto grabbed Yang's wrist, lifted her into the air and the little-eyed girl's body collided with the ground, without giving her time to react. He turned her over, putting her face down on the floor and taking her right hand, putting her in a headlock, positioning the blonde on top of her. All right, Yang, give up, it's over, you have no way out of this, Naruto made her understand, while squeezing her arm. You know, we always end up this way and you're always challenging me to a duel, you should be careful, Yang, you might give me the wrong idea, he told her, with a flirtatious tone. Yes, you wish, in your dreams, Naruto, she replied, with disdain. In my dreams you're a little more submissive, but I guess I can change that now, he told her, as he brought his free hand closer to Yang's rib and began to tickle it. Don't you dare, ha, ha, ha. She complained, between laughter and tears. Seriously, I don't see that you can do much, you're under my control, he whispered in her ear, as he moved closer to her. He heard a cough that interrupted the inappropriate atmosphere in a classroom. Mr. Uzumaki, please stop, Miss Goodwitch asked him, with a stern voice. Understood, Miss Goodwitch, I didn't mean for you to see this kind of scene, sorry, Naruto apologized, without losing his smile. Very good fight, I just have a few things to say, Miss Xiaolong, the teacher said in a firm voice. The aforementioned stood at attention before the stern gaze of her teacher. You have the same problem that I have been pointing out for the last 3 months, you are very impulsive and easily lose control in each fight due to the slightest provocation, you should control your temper like Mr. Uzumaki said, the teacher reprimanded. And regarding you, Mr. Uzumaki, the teacher continued, addressing the other student. The man in question straightened up and listened attentively with a serene look. I have nothing to mention that I have not heard before, your execution in combat was perfect, you did not waste blows and attacked at the exact moment in which there were openings, very well done, Mr. Uzumaki, the teacher congratulated him. Thank you very much for your words, Naruto thanked, as he bowed before the teacher. You can leave, the teacher told them, ending the fight. The two walked down from the combat podium, while the rest of the students watched them with admiration or envy. Naruto, that was incredible. No matter how many times I see it, it's impressive. I don't know if I should feel that way, but it was great how you kicked my sister's ass, said a cheerful Ruby, approaching her friend. Blonde. Thank you very much, frankly it was easier than I expected, should I slow down a little? Naruto said mockingly, making Yang look at him with annoyance, she knew he was playing with her, provoking her, before that she could reply, Weiss stopped her. Yes, the truth is that I have felt a little bad for beating them so quickly and stuff, maybe I will slow down my pace and the battle will last a little longer, and maybe I will even let myself get hit a little. Ah, Young, are you there? I didn't see you, Naruto said, feigning surprise. Of course. You were in front of me. You were looking at me. The blonde reproached him. Next time I will kick your ass, she threatened. Thank you very much for the battle, Young, but I will give you the advantage, okay? Next time I will fight with your entire team, Naruto told her, with a tone of challenge. Isn't that very arrogant of you? Do you think you could beat us all? Asked an irritated Weiss, defending her team's honor. It's not because of arrogance. Don't worry, I don't think I'll be able to beat the four of them. I just want to know my limits in combat. Winning or losing doesn't matter. What matters is learning, Naruto said wisely, although he knew that he would win that fight if it came to pass. I think you should stop challenging Naruto. Young, you know very well that you can't beat him, said Blake, who had approached the group. Blake, I hadn't seen you. I hope you're having a great time, Naruto said, greeting her kindly. Hello, Naruto, the black-haired woman said, with a slight smile. Naruto, over here, Nora shouted, calling him to sit next to them. Well, I'm leaving, ladies, my team is calling me, said Naruto, as he quickly walked away from the girls and headed towards his team, who were waiting for him with enthusiasm, while the girls followed him with their eyes, with different expressions on their faces. That was impressive, Naruto, you should teach me, Nora told him, jumping from her seat. I don't think it's your style, Nora, Naruto told her. I don't want you to teach me how to fight, I just want you to show me how you did that, Nora told him, pointing her finger at Yang's arm, who was still motionless. What? Naruto asked, feigning innocence. How you slept on Yang's arm, it was impressive, it's like in those movies. Nora exclaimed, with admiration. I won't teach you that, Naruto told him, shaking his head. But why? Nora complained, pouting. Because I'm afraid of what you could do if I show it to you. You would have bad intentions and use it for your benefit. I have to protect my friend Ren. There is no telling what could happen to him, Naruto told him, smiling mischievously. I already told you that we are not like that. Besides, who are you to talk about bad intentions? You were the one who put a girl in the room, Nora told him, reminding him of the incident that had happened the night before. Don't say it out loud and especially not here. I already explained it. That was a misunderstanding. She needed a place to sleep because she had problems with her equipment. We already fixed it. Naruto defended himself, turning red. Yes, and whose fault was it? Nora asked him, accusatory. Well, I don't know, Naruto said, looking away. Come on, Naruto, whose fault was it? Nora insisted, pressing him. I don't even have to explain. I wasn't doing anything wrong, Naruto defended himself, crossing his arms. Really, Naruto? Because I think I saw that you were flirting with her, Pira told him, intervening in the conversation. Pira, you too, Naruto gasped, outraged to see Pira taking Nora's side. And her boyfriend got jealous. He saw how his girlfriend accepted your advances and you had problems. In any case, yes, it was your fault, Ren added, with a smile. Okay, guys, rub it in, it was all my fault, okay. I just want it to be clear that I wasn't flirting with her, Naruto said, resigned. Yes, of course, the three said at the same time, without believing their leader. I tell you the truth, they took everything that happened out of context. I was just thanking her for lending me her notes from last year. She is a second year. The curriculum very rarely changes. Some exercises are the same. Naruto defended himself, trying to justify himself. Yes, and you weren't holding his hand and caressing his cheek every time you met, Ren told him, reminding him of what he had seen. Ren, you too. You must support me. You are my best friend, and I had already planned a date with that beautiful girl that you insisted that I introduce you so much, Naruto told him, inventing a lie to annoy him. Ren's eyes widened at the implication of Naruto's accusation, and he grew nervous. Ren, Nora exclaimed, jealous. It's not true, Nora. He's lying. Ren defended himself, shaking his head. Why would I lie, Ren? Nora asked him, suspicious. Naruto, stop bothering them, Pira told him, scolding him. Naruto stared at her for a few minutes, looking for a way to annoy her again. They had the right to accuse him of something he didn't do with that intention, so he could annoy them. Tell me, Pira, Naruto said, changing the subject. Yes, she asked him, confused by the change of topic. Who was that boy you were talking to? They seemed very close, Naruto said, hinting at something. He was just a fanatic, Pira told him, trying to downplay it. So I'm not enough for you anymore, Naruto said, with false pain. But what are you talking about? Pira stuttered, surprised by his words. So many nights we spent together, in which I gave you my love unconditionally and you changed me that quickly, Naruto told him, exaggerating the situation. Naruto, stop doing this, I know where this is going, you won't avoid my scolding again with that, Pira told him, embarrassed by his advances. So many nights in your bed and you, Naruto told her, getting closer to her. Stop it. Stop doing this. Pira told him, pushing him away from her. At that moment, she was already completely red with embarrassment. The same thing always happened to her every time she tried to reprimand her leader. In truth, this girl was very weak in the face of the constant flirting of the young blonde. Team NNPR. I have to remind you that you are still in class, Glinda said, with an authoritative voice. At that voice, everyone froze and stood at attention, except Naruto Uzumaki, who looked strangely calm. Mr. Ren, control your classmate and Miss Valkyrie, stop making noise in my class and pay attention, Glinda told them, looking at them sternly. The two lowered their heads, embarrassed by her teacher's scolding. And Miss Nikos, I cannot tolerate your behavior. It does not matter if you are a famous champion, these types of acts will not be allowed, no matter who you are. Do not take advantage of your fame, understand? Why yes, Professor, Pira responded, trembling with fear. And you, Mr. Uzumaki, Glinda continued, addressing the other student. A scolding was expected, but Glinda Goodwich's frown that adorned her face and her highly stern voice changed to a soft look and a kind voice. I ask you, please, to control your team. I know it will be difficult for you due to your condition, but I hope it does not happen again, is that understood? At that same moment, Naruto stood up from his seat and bowed, bowing his head. I sincerely apologize for what you just witnessed, Miss Goodwich. It will not happen again, and whatever punishment you have prepared I will accept. As a team leader I take responsibility for them, so please do not punish them, only me. Naruto said, humbly. Hearing this, Glinda smiled and began to laugh. It was an incredibly soft smile and very unusual for her. Don't worry, Mr. Uzumaki. I understand your difficulties very well. Controlling a team like this is not easy. You are a very responsible student and I trust that this will not happen again if you say so, Glinda told him, with sympathy. It won't happen again, Miss Goodwich. As soon as class ends I will scold you harshly, said Naruto, seriously. Everyone could hear Naruto Uzumaki's guilt, but since they couldn't see his face, they didn't notice that he was smiling evilly. And once that was finished, Naruto sat back down, ignoring the death glares from his teammates. They saw how Naruto was smiling, as if this situation wasn't his fault. Then, Pira tried to end the conversation with a threat that sounded very convincing. You sleep on the couch today, Naruto, Pira told him, angrily. Naruto smiled amused at that. What are you, my wife? And we don't have a sofa. //. Great, it's the weekend, let's have a great time. Nora exclaimed enthusiastically, anxious for what awaited them. It was Saturday morning and Pira and Ren were still curled up in their beds not wanting to get up. Then the sound of the bathroom door opening was heard and Naruto came out with a towel around his waist. You know we have plans, Nora. Don't act innocent, Naruto said with a mischievous smile, making Nora look away, blushing. Naruto, get dressed, Ren ordered in a firm voice, as he sat up in his bed. Pira, who was already half awake, had to quickly look away when she saw Naruto so exposed. How can you go out like that, Naruto? She exclaimed, grabbing her blankets and covering herself completely. Naruto, this is a room where there are 4 people, 2 of them are girls, have a little respect. You can't walk like this, Ren said, very annoyed, for 2 reasons. 1, because they had woken him up very early on a Saturday. When he should be sleeping, he was so exhausted from the daily training that his muscles still hurt, and 2, from the cheeky behavior of his leader who only limited himself to laughing. Guys, please, we are a team, there is nothing to hide between us, so I am not ashamed to be around you, nor should you be shy about showing yourself in front of me. In fact, maybe I would enjoy it a little more, Naruto said with a wink. Pig, Nora shouted, throwing a pillow at him. The truth is that there were many enigmas about their leader. They knew nothing, absolutely nothing about him. Only 2 things in particular, his name and that he loved ramen, but he could only eat it on Fridays. Instead, Naruto seemed to know them very well, so much so that he was scary. Ren had never had a conversation with Naruto about his past, nor about the place where he had grown up, nor about the school where he had studied, but Naruto knew details about him, details that were not visible to the naked eye. But he knew them, his favorite color, his favorite food, the books he liked to read, the music he listened to, his favorite characters from series and animations, and other things that were a little more personal. How did Naruto know? He said that he always knew them. Was watching. That did not calm them down and in fact made them feel guilty, because Naruto apparently was always looking out for them, but they were not interested in Naruto, they felt like bad companions. Nora, today is Saturday, the only day you can rest is Sunday because we only train until noon, said Naruto as he removed the towel from his waist, causing many to cover their eyes and scream indignantly, but he was wearing boxers underneath. Yes, Naruto was a complete enigma, they still had many doubts about him, where he was born, what institution he studied at, if he had parents or relatives, and also that scar he had on his chest, which looked like a war wound. Oh please Naruto, let's leave training for today, let's have fun, Nora begged her leader with a pleading look. I would love to say yes. Naruto grabbed a pair of pants, his gentleman's pants, and put them on, then put on his shoes. Although Pyrrha was very embarrassed, she glanced at Naruto's body, biting her lips. She had to admit that Naruto had a good physique, muscular and defined, the result of his hard training. But I'm afraid we can't skip a day of training, unless he's dead. That won't happen. And then Naruto's scroll rang out of nowhere. Shit, except if it's a call, that can stop training. Naruto took his scroll and answered, "Hello, yes, how are you?" He put on a shirt and buttoned it while holding his scroll between his shoulder and his head so it wouldn't fall. Sure, no problem. Luck. Everyone looked with interest at Naruto's call. Wait, now. Why now? I mean, it's too early. Ah, yes, I see, okay. Immediately the scroll call he finished, and at that same moment another call rang again. Hello, how are you, Emily? Dear, oh, of course, no, listen, I have the perfect place for you. I think you will love it, I really do. Interest increased in the team. A certain Emily, who was she? Her friend, her girlfriend, an acquaintance, a family member. There were many questions that were asked. Sure. Naruto finished buttoning his shirt and put on his jacket. I'll come see you right away. And the scroll call was over. Hey guys, you're saved. There's no training. This weekend do whatever you want. Naruto crouched under his bed and reached under it and pulled out a black briefcase. He put it on. A watch and glasses. What was all that? Pyrrha said curiously, unable to hide her surprise. Yes, this has been like this for the last 4 weeks. You go to Vale with that strange black briefcase and those glasses. We offer to accompany you, but you say that they are things that you have to do alone and that we would get bored. You come back on Sunday at night. We don't ask you what you do, but you don't tell us anything either. But I think it's time for you to share your activities. You're not involved in something strange, are you? Ren said, with a worried tone. Ah, you mean this? Naruto pointed to his briefcase. It's true, I haven't given you any explanations about what I've been doing. I'm covering a friend's work. Do you have friends? Nora asked sarcastically. Very funny, Nora, but I do have friends apart from you. But well, that's what I'm going to Vale for. I'm just going to replace a friend at work. He's taking a test to obtain Vale citizenship. Sometimes there are days when he can't go to classes and go to work at the same time, so I help him on those days that happen to be weekends. And what does your friend do? Pyrrha asked, with interest. Real estate. I've been lucky. I've found a lot of clients. Literally a gold mine. Divorced single mothers. Anyway, I have to go. A client is waiting for me. I can't miss it. Naruto immediately left the room, leaving everyone in silence, with questions and more out of concern. Should we worry about the expression he made when he said divorced single mothers? Ren said, uneasily. Yes, said Nora and Pyrrha, in unison. What do you think he does with them? Nora said, curiously. I don't know. Maybe he sells them houses, or keeps them company, or gives them advice, or, Pyrrha said, without finishing the sentence. Or what? Nora said, impatiently. Or, nothing. Forget it, Pyrrha said, blushing. // Look for any evidence that Junior has about our boss. There has to be something that compromises him, ordered a person with authority. That won't be easy. There are a lot of papers here, it could be anywhere. We don't have time to search calmly. Grab all the documents you can and let's go quickly. The clerics of this church are going to inspect this place again soon, and believe me, these men of God are not as peaceful as they say. Okay. Luckily, Junior is a veteran. He never saves anything on the web. He has everything physically. // Another weekend. Brr, what the hell was that? Naruto shuddered, feeling a chill run down his spine. What's wrong with you, boy? Asked the fox, from inside his mind. I don't know. I suddenly felt a chill. Something's not right, Naruto said, looking around, as if he expected to see something strange. What's wrong with you, Naruto? Pyrrha said, a little worried about her partner, because her leader stared into space for a few seconds, as if he were distracted. Nothing. I just felt a chill. I have the feeling that something is going to happen, Naruto said, trying to hide his concern. Maybe one of your many conquests found out about your adventures, you know. You should be careful. One day they might stab you in the back, cut you into little pieces and put you in a bag, Ren said with a strange joy in his voice, joking about Naruto's fame among women. Yes, it's very possible, Nora said with an amused laugh, following Ren's joke, although deep down she knew that Naruto was not as much of a womanizer as he seemed. Guys, it's not funny. I don't know what kind of image you have of me, but enough about me. We came to Vale to enjoy, so. What are we going to see? Said Naruto, changing the subject, and watching the billboards of the movies that were in the cinema. This movie, Death in the Dark, said Nora, pointing to a horror movie, which had a chilling cover, with a bloody hand sticking out of the darkness. Let's see what Nora asks for, Ren said, supporting his friend, even though he didn't really like horror movies, but he knew that Nora loved them, and he wanted to please her. I don't know. We can watch this movie. I would really like to see it before you. I was impressed when I saw the trailer, Naruto said, pointing to another movie, which was a romantic comedy, which had a cute cover, with a couple smiling and hugging. I don't really like romance movies, Ren said, making a face. He wasn't interested in love stories, he preferred action or mystery ones. Really? Maybe you'll learn something from them. Be more direct with what you feel, said Naruto, with a mischievous smile, insinuating that Ren had feelings for Nora, but that he didn't dare to confess them. I think you are misinterpreting our relationship. Nora and I are friends, nothing more, Ren said, with a tone of denial. Naruto sighed in response. Okay guys, let's go watch that movie. I hope it's good, and that it gives us a good time, Naruto said, with an optimistic smile. How is it possible that he's still alive? He's already been shot twice and I'm sure the last shot was in a lethal place. He's not a hunter, he's a damn police officer. He exclaimed Naruto, indignant, watching the movie on the movie screen. He didn't like that the plot was so unrealistic and that the protagonist was so invincible. Don't pay too much attention to that, brat, just enjoy, said the QB. Maybe we should buy one of those big mansions that we saw in videos on the internet, have a lot of space and be able to store all kinds of weapons by building a basement. It would be convenient, you know what? We are going to buy it next week, he said. Naruto was excited, imagining what it would be like to live in a luxurious and spacious house, with everything he needed to defend an attack. I think it will be a little more complicated than that, boy, said the QB, with a warning tone. The fox knew that Naruto had no idea how the real world worked, and that his money was a problem. Why, if I have money, I earned it all working with Junior, Naruto said, without understanding the complication. He thought that with money he could buy whatever he wanted, regardless of the origin or the amount. Yes, that's the problem. Imagine that a 15-year-old boy comes to a real estate agency and buys a mansion, but that boy is not famous, nor a rich kid, nor some kind of business magnate. He's a normal boy. Where did he get all that money? You understand where I'm going, right? Said the QB, trying to make him see reality. No, Naruto said, without understanding. He had money, he could buy what he wanted. It seems that you forgot everything we learned about finances, the fox sighed. Here's the thing, although you, for obvious reasons, should not have that amount of money and you buy a mansion, then, you damn organ trafficker or you sell narcotics, I don't know, but the thing is that your money clearly comes from an illegal source, said the QB, explaining the consequences. The fox knew that Naruto couldn't use his money freely, without raising suspicion or attracting trouble. Yes, my money is obtained illegally, we know it, said Naruto, acknowledging the fact. He knew his work with Junior wasn't legal, but he didn't care, as long as he paid him well. But it doesn't mean you can use it freely, they will investigate you even if you buy a small house, said the QB, warning him of the danger. Well, we could ask Junior to buy the mansion in his name, Naruto said, looking for a solution. He trusted Junior, and thought he could help him get the house he wanted. Yes, you forgot that we don't want to have any connection with him, the blonde mocked. You have to start laundering your money. Get ready to enter the world of taxes. In the ninja world there was no such nonsense as taxes, income, vehicle tax, wealth tax. Oh, believe me, it seems that the greatest enemy of a human being is not the grim, but the politicians, said the QB, laughing at Naruto's naivety. Naruto had to learn to handle his money legally, or at least pretend like he was. Yes, and it's a lot of money. How am I going to wash it? I could start investing my money, but what could I do it in? Naruto thought, looking for a way to hide the origin of his money. You know, I have no idea, the fox mentioned, honestly. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the help. I would kiss you if I could, Naruto said. Don't bother, brat. You remember the contents of the Wise Toad's book, right? Said the fox, with a malicious smile. The fox remembered that Naruto had read some very spicy books, which had belonged to the Wise Toad, and which talked about sexual and seduction techniques. I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto said shakily, shaking his head. Naruto turned red as a tomato. Heh, come on, brat, you're not fooling me. I know very well that you read them. I know your secret, your dirty little secret, said the fox, with a mocking laugh. Okay, I did read them, but what does that have to do with this? Naruto said, admitting the truth, but not understanding the relationship. Naruto didn't see how those books could help him launder his money, or buy a mansion. Well, transcribe them and publish them, use it as a cover for where your money comes from, said the fox, with a great idea. The fox thought that Naruto could use those books as a source of income, and as a way to justify his money. That will only work if the book sells well, Naruto said, doubtfully. Naruto wasn't sure that idea was a good one, nor that those books were that popular. Naruto thought that those books were only for perverts, and that no one would buy them. Oh, believe me, Boy, it will sell well, you already have it there. Problem solved, exclaimed the QB, proudly. The fox was sure that this idea was perfect. A call stopped the two's conversation. Who the hell? He said in a low voice, so as not to disturb the others, while looking at the unknown number on his scroll. Naruto wasn't expecting any call, he somehow knew who he was. Pira, I have to go to the bathroom, okay. I'll be back soon, Naruto said, excusing himself, as he got up from his seat and headed towards the exit. Understood, Naruto, take care of yourself, Pira said, with a smile, as she watched Naruto leave the movie theater. Pira stared at the screen, but not paying much attention to the movie. Then Naruto left the movie room and entered the bathrooms. He looked for a quiet and discreet place, where no one would bother him, and he answered the call. Hey, Junior, what's wrong? I told you not to contact me again, how did you get my number? Naruto said with annoyance, recognizing the voice of Junior, his former boss. Open double angle bracket Naruto, we have problems, or rather, you have a problem close double angle bracket, Junior said, with a nervous voice. Naruto, 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 was heard everywhere. It was the rest of Naruto's team, who was looking for their leader, who had been lost for a while. They were worried about him, and wanted to know where he was. They walked all over the place, shouting his name, but they couldn't find him anywhere. Ren told Pira to call his leader, maybe he would answer them. My dear leader, Ren asked, very confused, when he saw the contact name that Pira had on her scroll. Ren didn't know that Pira had that nickname for Naruto, and he found it very strange. It's not what it seems. She shouted, very embarrassed, when she saw Ren's reaction. Open double angle bracket hey, hello Pira, close double angle bracket, was heard on the other line. It was Naruto's voice, which sounded very happy and carefree. Naruto, where are you? You disappeared, Pira asked, with concern, upon hearing Naruto. Pira wanted to know what Naruto was doing, and why she had left without saying anything. Open double angle bracket yeah, sorry guys, I had a little problem, close double angle bracket, said Naruto, with a nervous voice, trying to make up an excuse. Naruto didn't want his classmates to know what he was doing, or who he was with. Open double angle bracket Naruto, don't get distracted, focus on his close double angle bracket, was heard in the background. It was the voice of a girl, which sounded very seductive and demanding. She was Miltiad, one of the Malachite sisters. Open double angle bracket it will only be a moment, Miltiad close double angle bracket, Naruto was heard saying, interjecting that girl's voice. Naruto wanted to end the call quickly. Naruto, what are you doing? Pira asked, with irritation in her voice, hearing that girl. Open double angle bracket I'm going to explain to you. Look, I had a problem. A friend, close double angle bracket, said Naruto, trying to lie and hide the truth. I think I have a good idea of what you're doing, Ren said, with playful amusement in his voice, as he listened to Naruto. Ren realized what was happening, and laughed at the situation. Open double angle bracket alright. Guys, don't get the wrong idea close double angle bracket, said Naruto, trying to defend himself, and calm the situation. Yes, I think that when you left the cinema you found two girls, you simply forgot about us and went with them, Nora said, with clear annoyance in her voice, upon listening to Naruto. Nora felt betrayed, and angry, thinking that Naruto had abandoned them, and that she had gone with two strangers. Open double angle bracket guys, it's okay, don't get any ideas, I'll explain everything to you close double angle bracket, said Naruto, trying to explain himself, and to fix things. Open double angle bracket Naruto, we didn't know that you had a commitment with your classmates, you told us that you were walking around here alone and you invited us to a restaurant, if we had known we wouldn't have accepted, ooh guys, how sorry we are, was heard deep down. It was another girl's voice, which sounded very fake and sarcastic. It was Melanie, the other Malachite sister. Open double angle bracket hey, don't do this, you're not helping, friends listen, Naruto alerted himself, trying to calm the Malachite sisters, and explain himself to his companions. Goodbye Naruto, Pira said, immediately hanging up the call, very hurt and angry. Pira, friends, please, you're fucking with me, Naruto said, turning off his scroll and putting it away. I hope they are happy. We are very happy, said the Malachite sisters, with an evil smile, very satisfied with what they had achieved. How is it possible that they have stolen you from all the people, Junior? Aren't you supposed to delete any file that relates to you in your work? Naruto was upset, and he complained to Junior, his former boss. Naruto didn't understand how Junior had been so careless, and how he had let such important, and dangerous, information for him be stolen. Yes, well, it is a policy not to destroy all the files and we always keep them in a vault, Junior said, sweating, and trying to justify himself. Damn, good, do you have any idea who they are? Naruto asked, impatiently. Yes, I have an idea, but not much, said Junior, with a trembling voice, and with fear. Very well. Then give me all the information you have about them, said Naruto, with determination, and with fury. Naruto wanted to know everything Junior knew about the thieves, and use that information to locate them, and attack them. Naruto wasn't going to let them get away with this, and threaten him. About that, they also stole information from themselves. I have nothing to give you, besides the name, said Junior, with a dull voice, and with shame. Naruto took a deep breath to calm himself. And you don't know anything else about them? Naruto asked, in disbelief. Naruto couldn't believe that Junior didn't have more information about the thieves, and that he only gave them a name. It's not like I know everything by heart, right? They are called Heibai, said Junior, with a resigned voice, and with fear. Damn, I'll start with that. See you later, Junior, said Naruto, opening the door and leaving, very angry, and very determined. I think he took it pretty well, said Junior, with an ironic voice, and with relief. Don't even tell me, Junior, if for a moment I thought I was going to cut off your head, Melanie said, with a mocking voice. It wouldn't be so cruel, he is fond of me, said Junior, in a false voice, and with sarcasm. Luckily, Melanie said. So you're going to do a massacre again? The QB asked, curious, and wanting to see blood. I'm not going to kill anyone, QB, Naruto expressed himself, seriously, and with control. Naruto was not a murderer, and he did not want to take anyone's life, he just wanted to make them suffer, and take back what was his. How boring, and what will you do then? Said the QB, with disappointment, and with boredom. I'm going to break some of their bones, and I'm going to rob them like they robbed me, said Naruto, with determination, and with fury. Naruto wanted to make them pay, he wanted to get his information back, and erase any trace that linked him to Junior. Technically, they robbed Junior, said the QB, ironically and sarcastically. Yes, details, we will start now. Very well, we will investigate. These idiots are going to regret ruining the moment with my companions, Naruto said, impatiently, and wanting to act. Your team has a very proactive imagination, said the QB, with a mocking laugh, and with amusement. Right, how do you think I would leave you for a woman? Kami, maybe if it were a bowl of ramen one would consider it, Naruto said, with an ironic smile, and with indignation. You could have saved yourself this problem if you cloned yourself, said the QB, with a logical suggestion, and with common sense. Naruto had the ability to create clones of himself, and he could use them to do several things at once. Naruto could have used a clone to go to the bathroom, and answer the call, and thus not have left his classmates alone, nor made them suspicious. Naruto stopped and hit his forehead with his palm, very frustrated, and very embarrassed. He sometimes forgot that he was a ninja from another dimension, and that he had abilities that no one else had. I didn't expect to see you here, boss, said a man nervously as he saw a stern-looking woman enter the warehouse. I'm not in the mood for small talk. I've come to inspect the reserves. I've discovered that there are anomalies in our accounts, the woman responded in an irritated voice. Sure, boss. The man agreed hurriedly. Everything is in order, I assure you. No one should bother me while I'm here, did you hear me? The woman ordered before entering the vault. Yes, boss, of course, the man said, closing the door behind her. That was easier than I thought, the woman told herself, who was actually not a woman, but Naruto Uzumaki, a blonde ninja with a nine-tailed fox sealed inside him. She had used a transformation technique to impersonate Riel Mayer. Riel had snow-white skin, piercing gray eyes, straight black hair, and a slim, athletic figure. But that didn't matter now. Naruto stopped using his technique and regained his normal appearance, with his black dress suit, and sighed in relief. Well, here we are. Wow, that's a lot of money. There must be at least 400 million lien here, Naruto exclaimed, looking at the wads of bills stacked in the vault. Are you going to take the money? Asked the QB. No, I'm going to burn it, Naruto responded, surprising the fox, who was not expecting to hear such a response. Why would you do that stupid thing? Save it, the QB protested. It's not my money, besides this is to annoy them, not to benefit me, explained Naruto, who had a plan. He had tracked down a criminal gang that Junior had mentioned. He had watched them until he knew who they were and who his boss was, and so he had been able to infiltrate his lair and access his funds. He wanted to destroy their money to weaken them and make them pay for their crimes. What is that box? Naruto asked himself, seeing a wooden box in a corner of the vault. It measured about 40 centimeters wide and a meter long, and had a padlock that closed it. Naruto approached the box and opened it with ease, using his superhuman strength, which he had achieved by improving his chakra control. But brute force required more than good chakra control, it also took training and will. Oh, ho, I'm going to keep this, Naruto exclaimed, upon seeing the contents of the box. There were gold ingots, which shone with the reflection of the light. Naruto took out a storage scroll and put the entire box into it. Very well. If we find one of these boxes in each of the 7 warehouses that exist, I suppose this bad situation could compensate for itself. // Come on, brat, you know what you have to do. Get in there and destroy them, the fox that lived inside him encouraged him. Of course, I'm not going to let them get away with it. Plus, I want to do it in style. I'm going to kick in, throw smoke bombs, and walk like a black shadow, said Naruto Uzumaki, excited about his performance. Plan. That sounds very dramatic, but hey, you'll see, commented the fox, a little skeptical. And so Naruto Uzumaki did. He kicked down the door of the enemy lair, sending it flying into the air, and threw smoke bombs to hide his figure. Only his voice could be heard, grave but calm, as he addressed the criminals. Guys, it looks like you've pissed off the wrong guy, Naruto said, with an air of superiority. So you better be ready for the Kansei. CES, he continued, but his voice faded as he saw what was in front of him. He expected to find a base full of enemies, but there was nothing like that. What there was were the corpses of the entire gang, scattered around the place, with signs of a horrible and painful death. And in the middle of all that carnage, there was her boss, RWBY Mayor. She was panting and tired, breathing hard, she had visible wounds, but nothing serious to the naked eye. This is not what I expected, Naruto admitted, surprised. He took a few steps forward and approached Mayor. He looked at her carefully, checking that she was okay. One could never be too safe, especially with a woman as dangerous as her. But before he could say anything, she was the first to speak. You must be Naruto Uzumaki, she said. How do you know who I am? Naruto asked, puzzled. He didn't expect it to be so easy to recognize. He was wearing a mask, after all. How was she able to identify him so quickly? A katana and a gun, and your blonde hair. Even though you have a mask, I recognize certain characteristics. Plus, your clothing doesn't fit what I know. Do you work in a bar? Mayor asked, curious. Anyone can use one of these weapons, and I don't work in a bar. I just really like these clothes, Naruto defended himself, offended. Yes, but none of them betrayed themselves, she said, smiling maliciously. Shit, Naruto exclaimed, angry. He realized that he had fallen into a very obvious trap. Naruto resigned himself to speaking. Well, I guess you know why I came here, he said, trying to change the subject. I have an idea of what you intended to do here, maybe kill us, right? Don't worry, boy, look, I haven't stolen anything from you. Junior's vault says otherwise, Naruto replied, showing a photo of an empty vault. That's the way things are. When that mess happened I was in Mistral, Mayor excused himself. Really? Naruto said sarcastically, not believing a word of him. Hey bye, I am not the boss, I am a cell of a larger mafia that resides in Mistral. I left because I had to report some things personally, and in that period of time my group got out of control and decided to rob Junior. The idiots let themselves be fooled by someone who told them that Junior had compromising information about me. And you don't have it? Naruto asked, intrigued. Of course yes, but he is an information trafficker and has information on everyone and all kinds, so as long as no one pays him for my information I don't have to worry about that now. That's beside the point. When I came back there were a bunch of papers in my office. I wanted to give them back to Junior. The last thing I want is to have problems with him. And why didn't you do it? Naruto insisted, suspicious. I wasn't going to waste this opportunity, right? That's how I found out about you, and to think that you would be that murderer. There are legends about you, you know. From the first moment of your appearance, no one knew who you were, even I told you. I was afraid, but now that I see you well. Mayor glanced at him for a few seconds, examining the Uzumaki. I'm even more afraid of you than before. If it weren't for the information I got I would be completely convinced that you are a complete idiot, but I see murderous and merciless fury in you. Naruto didn't say anything and simply listened to what she had to say. She gave a long sigh knowing that the Uzumaki wasn't going to talk. I was going to return them today, but it turns out that my group betrayed me. They allied themselves with another rat and decided to eliminate me. It seems that this was planned for a long time, the blonde deduced, observing the signs of combat in the place. Yes, as you can see, Mayor said, pointing to all the lifeless bodies lying on the ground. I killed them myself, with my own hands, she added, proudly. Mayor turned around, turning his back on the blonde and walking away from him, but then turned around again, with a defiant look. So you see, your revenge ends with me, apparently. Even so, I won't make it easy for you, he warned her. Naruto thought about Mayor's words. Kami, I would like to take revenge or retaliate against her, but she has already suffered enough from her. The betrayal of your companions can destroy your soul, Naruto thought, feeling some compassion. Naruto took off his mask, showing his face. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you, so I'm going to ask you not to say anything about me, he asked her. Just that, she said, with a mocking laugh. Idiot, how do you know I'm not going to extort you with that information? She asked him. Because if you don't keep the secret, you will regret it. I know where you live, I know where you sleep, so, he said, leaving the threat implicit. Yes, I understand. If I open my mouth, I'm dead. I understand. Although that's no use, someone else already has your information, she informed him. I'll deal with that later, Naruto said, casually. Mayor sighed in relief that his life was not in danger, but he did not relax. The truth is that I was planning to retire in a few years, so I guess this is fine. I have money saved in the vaults and these bastards are dead, so I'm keeping everything. It's good news, actually, he said, trying to see the positive side. Hearing that, Naruto grimaced in pain and guilt, knowing that this was not going to end well. About that, listen, you'll find this funny, I actually didn't plan to kill them from the beginning, I just wanted to scare them and knock them out, he confessed. Mayor stared at him, waiting for the trap. The point is that I already left them out of combat, I only came here to threaten them. In a way, when a mafia or organization does not have funds, it just doesn't make sense, you know, he said, trying to justify himself. Don't fuck with me, Mayor replied, frowning. Why you didn't do what I think I'm thinking, he said, fearing the worst. Listen to me, I burned the money, Naruto said, his voice so low that he could barely be heard. What did you say? Mayor asked, stunned. I burned your money, damn it. Naruto shouted, raising his voice. Mayor was furious. Don't be upset. I have the gold from your vaults, I can give that back to you, she said, trying to appease her. You son of a bitch, you bastard. There was a total of 1 billion lien in the 7 vaults together. And you burned them. Listen to me, I just wanted to give them what they deserved for what you guys did to me and Junior, and when karma hit, I guess I didn't need to get involved, Naruto said, scratching his head in embarrassment. Mayor grabbed a gun, no one knows where, but he grabbed a gun and pointed it at the blonde. Let her go, please, we don't need to go to those extremes, exclaimed the blonde to reassure the upset woman. Damn, imbecile, get ready to get shot in your damn head, she screamed very angrily. And you know, the truth is that it was not a very good idea to have the money in a vault, how were you going to spend it? You would have to launder all that money, Naruto said, trying to reason with her. Do you think I don't know how to launder money? You idiot. Yes, I think so, you would know how to do it, you have been in this business much longer than I have. And how do you do it? The blonde asked, curious. What? She was losing her patience. Launder your money, he repeated. Mayor was very angry with the young blonde for his lack of concern, despite having a gun pointed at his head, and responded to him. I have several businesses, a hospital, some restaurants, some car washes and other things, nothing that matters to you, but then he saw that the boy had a guilty expression, and fearing the worst, he asked him. What have you done? Well, you see, part of destroying an organization also involves destroying its sources of income, you know, its infrastructure, he said, with a forced smile. Don't tell me, Mayor exclaimed, terrified. Yes, I'm very sorry, he said, with a gesture of regret. The gold you have barely covers 10% of what you burned, she snapped, furiously. Listen to me, we can fix this somehow. Pipee. The sound of a bell was heard in Naruto's pocket. One moment. Hello Ren, what's up? Naruto answered. Open double angle bracket Naruto, where have you been? Close double angle bracket. I'm busy, I'll explain later. Open double angle bracket but if it's Sunday Naruto, you have to go back to the dorms. Close double angle bracket. Nora's voice was heard in the background, very angry. I'm sorry guys, I just had to resolve a matter, but I'm almost done, I just need. Quote exclamation mark. Naruto Uzumaki, I'm going to destroy you for everything you've done to me. Mayor yelled at him, interrupting him. Open double angle bracket. Wow, it seems like you have problems Naruto. Close double angle bracket. Pira told him, joining the conversation. Open double angle bracket. Is she a jealous ex-girlfriend? Close double angle bracket. Naruto didn't know how to get out of this situation, so he just sighed and admitted the excuse that conveniently came to him. Yes, an ex-girlfriend. Fuck, Pira, I appreciate you bringing me breakfast without me asking. It's no big deal. But what? I think the plate is put on the table and not on the floor, Naruto said, staring at a plate of food lying in the dining room of Beacon Academy. It was a lapse, with how badly you behaved I thought you were a dog, said the redhead who was reluctantly eating her plate. It's not that it was bad, it was just that she was in a bad mood. That sounds like racism, you know, but it was funny to me, honestly, at least you talked to me, not like someone else, Naruto sighed. Nora, seriously. Enough of this nonsense. This is very childish. At your age, are you going to give me the silent treatment? Come on now. This was the situation of Naruto Uzumaki, that although he had apologized for everything that had happened, in reality his friends still had not forgiven him no matter how much they said yes and that nothing was happening. In reality, Ren didn't care. She was having a good time with all this. It didn't help that the laughter of Team RWBY was echoing there. Even Weiss was laughing at her misfortune. One would think that with how serious she was, she would try to calm things down. Naruto sighed and picked up the plate from the floor, placed it on the table and began to eat. The food calmed his anger. Good food does wonders for one's mood. The blonde lamented that today was not Friday because he always liked it. I like to eat a bowl of ramen that day. Okay, kid, we have to talk seriously about this. We can't leave it any longer, said the QB very seriously. I agree. Some asshole out there stole all the information Mayor had and knows everything about me. Naruto got pissed. I didn't mean that, idiot. Really? Because I don't think there's anything more important than, I don't know, all the deaths I caused during the last 2 years and all the criminal ties I have in the underworld. I don't know. I don't think there are nothing more important than that. You could hear the evident sarcasm in Naruto's voice. It was very silly to think that there was something more important than all the compromising information that someone had about him. I'm talking about all the money you gave to that bitch. I can't imagine that you've given up all the money you earned in the last 2 years. Why? Well, true. I was sorry. The truth is that I was the one to blame for her being left without a penny. In addition to all the gold I gave her back, I just wanted, I don't know, to compensate her in some way, said Naruto. Are you stupid or you're missing a couple of neurons? I can't believe it. She's a criminal. You have no obligation to her. Come on, she's not that bad. Okay, she tried to shoot me in the head, strangle me and set me on fire. But now I have some kind of spy in the underworld. I need all the help I can get. I sent clones to look for the guy who robbed him. We cannot allow that information to leak to the public. Can you imagine what would happen if they found out that I was that murderer they talk so much about? I don't even want to think what they would think of me. I couldn't stand it, Naruto said, looking at the entire RWBY team and the rest of his team. In truth, this was what scared him the most, not that it was known about him, but for them to find out the kind of person he was before coming here. He didn't care about the rest of the world's opinion, only that of his friends. Naruto. A voice was heard that quickly took Naruto out of the conversation with his tenant. He realized that it was the voice of his friend RWBY. She seemed very worried. I was calling you for a while, but you didn't listen to me, Naruto smiled to reassure her. Don't worry, I was thinking about how to fix this situation with my colleagues. Don't worry, I know they will forgive you, RWBY said very hopefully. I hope so. The truth is that I couldn't stand this type of rejection anymore. They are the light of my life, even Ren. Give them time. I'm sure you'll fix things. I don't know. I think this doesn't make sense anymore. I should give up. Naruto became falsely sad. No, don't say that. They're your friends, RWBY exclaimed. I know, but Nora keeps rejecting me. This relationship is one-sided. I try very hard to make her happy, but it seems that her only goal here is to make me look as miserable as possible. I don't know what to do. Naruto gave an exaggerated sigh, putting a hand on his forehead. Well, I think maybe you should give it time, RWBY stuttered. Time? Do you want me to give her as much time as possible, RWBY? She doesn't understand that I need her to be with me, to give me some attention, to give me some hope that this is going to work. Naruto, I think you're taking the conversation the other way. I don't think she's the right one for me, right? He made sad eyes with obvious falseness that everyone noticed. Naruto, I think we should change the subject, RWBY said. Yes, maybe and just maybe I fell in love with her beauty at first. Maybe it wasn't love, maybe it was just that, attraction and nothing more. I should confront her. Plus I think she's already in love with another guy. I don't know what she sees in him. He's a quiet guy. He's handsome. I can't deny that. Apparently she likes dull guys. Well, to each their own. Yours. Naruto raised his shoulders. You know I'm listening to you, right, Naruto? Ren said with a flat look, but with a touch of annoyance. I'm going to talk to her. Naruto sighed. This can't go on like this. Then Naruto turned his head to the left to look for Nora with his eyes, but he realized that she was not there. He smiled mischievously. This is a piece of cake. A little more and I will break her defenses. She really thought she could ignore me all day. Well, I'm going to show him that he can't. And his voice became sing-song, Pyra. What do you want, Naruto? She said dryly. How cold? Where is all the love that you swore you would give me one day? I didn't swear anything to you. I just promised you a beating when we're done. The Uzumaki's smile widened and he put his hands behind his head, sighing happily. Then he heard the scroll beep from Naruto, who pulled it out of his pocket and looked at the message only to smile. Wow, 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 it's Velvet. Everyone paid attention to Naruto again, although they never took their eyes off him. They saw his 1000 megawatt smile. He says that his team wants a rematch with me. It seems that beating them 3 times already is not enough. You should spend more time with us than with them, Pyrrha spoke with annoyance. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow, very surprised at that statement. It was not true. Most of the time he was with them, more so because they trained every day. You know that is not true, my dear companion. Although it seems like you have a better time with them than with us, especially with that Velvet. Come on, I enjoy it as much as when I'm with you, or with Ruby and Yang, and the others. I also enjoy playing pranks on Cardin and having him play pranks on me, said Naruto with a dreamy smile, playing pranks on Cardin. Cardin was always funny, although he didn't like to admit it. Falling for Cardin's jokes hurt his pride. He had to admit that the guy was very good at cheating. I'm still surprised that you beat a third-year team and I missed it, Ruby complained. They must have been amazing. And they are. Velvet is a beauty, a sweetheart. She is so kind and so attentive to me. Yatsuhashi is an incredible fighter just like Fox, but they have a certain obsession with Mysterlian idols, and Coco, their leader, flirts with me shamelessly, although he hides it under a mask of hatred and indifference. Everyone looked at Naruto with a poker face. They didn't know if it was on purpose or not, but Naruto didn't realize that Coco hated him so openly that it was palpable in the air. No one knew why. Maybe it was because Naruto had beaten him several times, or because he had played some practical joke on him, or because he was jealous of his relationship with Velvet. The truth is that Coco couldn't stand Naruto, and Naruto didn't seem to notice anything. Changing the subject, what is really happening? Why are you fighting Naruto? Ruby asked. A small misunderstanding, nothing to worry about. Yang smiled and proceeded to give a deduction that was very right and wrong at the same time. Let me guess. You left them hanging because you had a date with a girl. Where do you get that from? Somehow we sensed it, Weiss said. Oh, come on, guys, seriously. What image do you have of me? Naruto asked. Not a very good one, I can tell you that, Blake said without stopping to look at her book. Come on, I'm not that bad, how can you think I would do such a thing? Ruby. Naruto looked at his friend. Well, I think you're a good boy, Naruto. But you're a bit, how can I put it? Ruby was scratching the back of her head in sorrow at what was probably an offense to her friend. A bit of a womanizer. That last part was said so quietly that not even Naruto could hear it. What did you say, Ruby? I'm just saying that you're a little prone to getting distracted by any girl that crosses your path. Hey, show me and keep it. How come I get distracted by girls? That's stupid. I've never flirted with anyone in my life. I can't believe you thought that. Naruto was outraged. Yes, of course, everyone said, very convinced that that was obviously a lie. Open double angle bracket ringing sound close double angle bracket. Naruto looked at his scroll, saw the number and hung up, his expression turned cold. Naruto, they're calling you, Yang said. I know, it's someone I prefer to ignore for the moment, the blonde replied seriously. It must be again, the QB said. Very likely, I hope you know what you're getting into, blackmailing me is not smart. Naruto didn't want to talk about that topic, it was something that brought him a lot of problems and headaches. Someone had managed to steal all the information Mayor had about him and his criminal activities. That person had threatened to reveal everything to the world if he did not pay him $1 million sum. Naruto wasn't afraid to confront him, but he also didn't want his friends to find out about his dark past. That's why he had decided to keep it a secret and find a way to recover the information and eliminate the blackmailer. His friends, however, were not satisfied with his response. They wanted to know who was calling her and why she wasn't answering. They persisted with questions and assumptions, trying to get something out of him. Come on, Naruto, tell us who it is. Is it one of your girlfriends? Yang said wryly. No, she's not one of my girlfriends. I don't have girlfriends, Naruto said with annoyance. So who is it? Someone important. Someone dangerous, Weiss said curiously. No, he's not anyone important. Nor anyone dangerous. He's just a bore who keeps bothering you, Naruto said evasively. A bore who won't stop bothering you. Like Cardin, Blake said sarcastically. No, not like Cardin. Cardin is a saint compared to this guy, Naruto said with exaggeration. Well, Naruto, if you need help, you can count on us. We are your friends, Ruby said sincerely. Thank you, Ruby, but I don't need help. I can fix this on my own, Naruto said with determination. Naruto hoped his friends would drop the topic, but they didn't. They kept insisting and pressing, wanting to know more. Naruto felt more and more cornered and annoyed. He didn't want to lie to them, but he didn't want to tell them the truth either. What could he do? How could he get out of that situation? How could he paraphrase his answer to make it sound more convincing? Naruto Uzumaki was not intimidated by the cold of the night in Vale, but he was intimidated by the mysterious subject that was slipping through his fingers. Since he came to this world, he had never had trouble finding anyone, but this guy was different. He was testing her senses and his patience. Normally, Locating someone or a gang took him 3 days, 4 at most if he had to investigate something else. But this guy had been avoiding him for a week and Naruto was getting frustrated. Every night he escaped from Beacon while his friends were sleeping and sent clones throughout the kingdom, but what bothered Naruto the most was that every day he received a call. He couldn't recognize his voice, it was distorted and unrecognizable, but he could tell it was the voice of an adult man, perhaps in his 30s. At this moment he didn't even deign to threaten or blackmail him, he just talked to him, as if they were old friends, it was getting on his nerves. And today he was repeating the same story, talking to that guy at night, on the roof of a building in front of a hospital. Open double angle bracket. How beautiful the night is, right? Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto close double angle bracket. He frowned and sighed, resigned to continue with that conversation. The night seems the same to me as any other night, there is nothing special here, except maybe this fake hospital. Naruto said scornfully. Open double angle bracket. Heh heh heh. It's funny, isn't it, how people use these kinds of places for their own purposes. Close double angle bracket. And you are different, he scoffed. Naruto. Open double angle bracket. I consider myself a different kind of criminal. Close double angle bracket. What the hell do you want? I have an idea of the project but not the objective. Open double angle bracket. Calm down, we're just chatting. Close double angle bracket. Enough of this nonsense, do you really think I don't know what you're doing? Open double angle bracket. And what am I doing? Naruto Uzumaki, close double angle bracket. You are using me to destroy all the gangs in the kingdom, but why? For a moment there was no response and then laughter was heard. Open double angle bracket. You're really incredible. I didn't expect it, you're very smart, ha ha ha. Close double angle bracket. Yes, well, it's not that difficult really, you leave a clue for me to suspect some gang and once I eliminate it you put another clue in another gang, you just use me as a pawn. But that won't matter, sooner or later I'll find you early. Open double angle bracket. Yes, I know, you have all those clones scattered throughout the kingdom. Close double angle bracket. Upon hearing that, Naruto opened his eyes, he did not expect that information to be in his hands. Open double angle bracket. Surprised. Junior was very detailed about this kind of thing. So, you study at Beacon now, right? What happened? You woke up one day and decided you wanted to be a hero. Biome, people like you do not change, they are destined to return to the beginning, to what they were born in. Close double angle bracket. At that moment Naruto was furious, an idiot was laughing in his face and he couldn't hit him. I'm going to find you and I'm going to tear you to pieces, do you hear me? Open double angle bracket. How scary. Close double angle bracket, said the unknown voice in a mocking tone. Open double angle bracket. We'll talk again, little blonde. Close double angle bracket, and hung up the call. Naruto put away his scroll and looked down at the hospital. I guess he's not here for obvious reasons, the fox mentioned boredly. Yes, but there may be some clue, said Naruto. Naruto had to enter carefully, because in addition to the aforementioned inconveniences, there was another one, and that was that the Veil police were investigating the attack on the mafias and they were putting more efforts day by day. One day, they even called the hunters. He searched throughout the hospital, but found nothing except a cigar of Atlassian origin, a cigarette butt. What's so special about it? Asked the fox. It's a very expensive and exclusive brand, only the rich and powerful smoke it, said Naruto. And what does that mean? Insisted the fox. It means that this guy has contacts and resources, he is not a simple thief or a hacker, he is someone who has a plan and an agenda, said Naruto. And what are we going to do? Asked the fox curiously. Let's follow his trail, see where he takes us, and when we find him, we'll show him who's boss here, Naruto said with determination, but he also sighed. He was tired of so much persecution and violence. Alright, we have to get out of here, the police are coming in. How did they find out about this place? Oh, right, that guy maybe ratted out this gang to catch me, Naruto said. Brat, is this totally necessary? From what I can see, why don't you just destroy all the gangs in this kingdom, without exception, without judgment, quickly and easily? The fox spoke to him from inside his mind, with his hoarse, malicious voice. I'm not going to do that, I haven't killed any men this entire week and I'll keep it that way. Naruto refused to follow the fox's advice. He was not a murderer. Stop, it's complete nonsense that you're abiding by the laws of this world. You're not like the others. The fox mocked Naruto's morals. He didn't understand why he limited himself so much, why he didn't use his full potential. He was a superior being, a god among men. He could rule the world if he wanted to, but he was content to be a student. Enough, I'm reaching my limit. Naruto got angry at the fox. He couldn't stand his constant provocations, his attempts to corrupt him, to make him fall into darkness. He had a goal, a mission, and he wasn't going to let anything or anyone get in the way of it. He didn't even the fox that he carried inside him. And that's the same thing I told you before, you're holding back again, but more than that, you're going soft. Before you wouldn't even hesitate to retaliate against those who bother you. The fox reminded him of what Naruto had been like in the past, when he was wilder, more cruel. When he didn't care about anything but survival, when he had no friends, when he only had the fox. You're showing your true colors, fox. Naruto reproached the fox for his evil nature, his hatred towards humanity, his bloodlust. I have never hidden my intentions, I hate humanity with all my being. But I respect you, boy, and that is much more than anyone can boast. The fox confessed to Naruto his strange admiration for him. And I'll be direct, if you keep holding back like this, eventually your enemies will hurt your loved ones, and even if you are so powerful, you won't be able to do anything to prevent it. The fox warned Naruto of the consequences of his weakness, of his compassion, of his humanity. He reminded him that he had enemies everywhere, that they hated him, that they feared him, that they wanted him dead. The fox smiled evilly, waiting for Naruto to react. With a calm and serene voice Naruto responded, but anger was heard in his voice. Let's go, I have nothing to do here. In a secret base, a man was looking at his scroll, his hand trembling. This man had orange hair and a cigar in his right hand, where the smoke spread throughout the place. He smiled nervously, appearing confident was never easy. He would have to be careful, erase his tracks, any clues that lead to him. Because blackmailing Naruto Uzumaki was unwise, he knew that better than anyone. Everything he read in those documents was terrifying. Shit, I have to get rid of these documents before Cinder finds out about this boy. She could replace me with him. The man muttered to himself, as he put the scroll away in a safe. He was Torchwick, he was the one who had obtained Junior's secret documents, the ones that revealed Naruto's true identity, his origin. But not just for Naruto. Also for Cinder, his boss, she was the one behind everything, the one who had a master plan, she was the one who had ordered him to look for the famous murderer who appeared 2 years ago and that no one knew, to attract him to her side, to use him as a pawn. But Torchwick will say he never found the killer. Some time later. No one can escape fatigue, no matter how upset or strong they are. Sooner or later, the body and mind ask for rest, no matter who you are. And Naruto was no exception. After so many nights of infiltrating enemy bases, creating clones and spending chakra, his energy was running out and his friends began to notice. They were very worried about him. Even Nora, who did not speak to him, had to admit that he was a born fighter. Naruto, I think you should go to the infirmary and rest. We'll tell the professor that you're sick, Pyrrha suggested, with a look of concern for her blonde leader. Don't worry, I'm fine. Just continue with your thing, Naruto replied, with a tired and weak voice. I agree with Pyrrha, you are a mess. You should rest, Ren supported her, with a serious tone. Although it seemed like they got along badly, the truth is that they really liked each other. Okay, guys, I'm going to rest, but after class, okay? Don't worry, Naruto promised them, with a forced smile. No, I'm serious, Naruto, Ren insisted. You are very bad, you can barely move coherently. I appreciate the concern, but I'm not as bad as I look. Don't worry, nothing bad will happen. Trust me, Naruto reassured them, with a confident look. The rest of the team accepted his answer with suspicion and proceeded to walk to their next class, but they did not notice that their leader stood still in the same place, looking lost in space. And suddenly, he collapsed, falling to the ground unconscious. There were screams everywhere, even Nora screamed in panic. What would have happened to her? Retrospective scene. One of Naruto's clones was outside the kingdom, at a marble mining company. He had gone to investigate a clue that the original had given him, about a possible relationship between the company and the White Fang, the terrorist organization that wanted to exterminate humans. The clone didn't see anything strange at first glance, just some workers doing their job, but what caught his attention was that every night, none of them went home. There were only a few personnel changes every 3 days, and they were always the same faces. And they brought a container that entered directly into the company without anyone checking it. That wouldn't be strange at all, if it weren't for the fact that they were carrying weapons and masks. The clone realized that these workers were actually members of the White Fang, who used the company as a cover for their plans. The clone decided to follow them, to find out what was in the container, and what they planned to do with it. He neutralized one of the workers and disguised himself with his clothes, hoping to go unnoticed. He searched the entire place, but found no clues. He was about to give up, but he knew that those containers that arrived every 3 days were not simple supplies. There was something else, something big. He decided to go through the heating routes, and entered the private bathrooms that were in a restricted area, where a simple worker had nothing to do. But he met someone he didn't expect. What are you doing here? Shouted a man with brown hair, green eyes, slightly fat, dressed in a brown suit and a mustache. He was accompanied by 3 men, who were security guards. They were wearing the typical guard uniform, and weapons that didn't look very legal. I'm sorry, sir, I just wanted to use the bathroom, the Naruto clone stammered, feigning nervousness. And what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be working? The man asked him, with an authoritarian tone. Yes, sir, I just wanted to go into the bathroom and it took me a little longer than usual. I'm sorry, I'll be right back, the Naruto clone apologized, trying to get out of there. You better, I'd hate to get rid of you, right? The man threatened, with a malicious smile. Why yes, sir, it won't happen again, the Naruto clone assured him, with a fearful expression. Once they were away from Naruto, the guards continued on their way, not suspecting anything of him. But the smell of blood was hard to ignore. The guard had a formation of 3, 2 on the sides and 1 in the back, protecting the rear. When they passed through one of the intersections of the hallways, Naruto took the opportunity to grab the one behind him, knocked him out and quickly replaced him using a henge. Then he followed them, without saying anything, waiting for the brown-haired man to take him somewhere interesting. So it was. They entered some kind of elevator that shouldn't be working, but somehow it was. They entered and went down. When they reached the end of the journey, Naruto's jaw dropped. He was in a huge underground cave, and it was filled with contraband weapons of all kinds. There were weapons from Mistral, from Bakuo, and even from Atlas, which were almost impossible to obtain in this kingdom. He was sure they had been stolen from somewhere. Naruto wondered what they planned to do with all those weapons, and why they were hiding them there. Maybe they were planning an attack, or a revolution, or something worse. Maybe they wanted to blow up the kingdom, or conquer it, or sell it to the highest bidder. What surprised him most was that all the workers were wearing masks, but curiously they had no animal features. They were completely human, and they disguised themselves as the White Fang to blame them for any crime. It was a very cunning strategy, and very dirty. Naruto was outraged to see how they used the White Fang's name for their selfish purposes. He had no sympathy for the White Fang, but at least they had a cause, however misguided it might be. These guys just wanted money and power. Mr. Corbat, how are you? I'm glad to see you, said a tall, thin man with black hair and glasses. He was one of the heads of the company, and in charge of supervising smuggling. So this guy's name is Corbat, the Naruto clone thought, memorizing his name. It was one of the objectives of his mission, and he had to capture it alive. Then they went to a small room, where there was a table with a stack of papers. Naruto instantly recognized that they were documents from Junior, the leader of one of the most powerful mafias in the kingdom. They had the logo of his illegal business on the top. Naruto realized that these documents were proof that Junior was involved with smuggling, and that he had betrayed Naruto. So it's here. No, this could be another kind of trap, Naruto said to himself, cautiously. He remembered that Junior had tipped him off to the Marble Company, and that perhaps he had done it to ambush him. Naruto didn't trust Junior, and he knew that he was capable of anything for money. In addition to the documents, there was a large amount of lien on the table. It was payment for the smuggling, and it was an enormous sum. Mr. Corbat laughed, with an expression of satisfaction. Is all this the net profit of all the merchandise? He asked, proudly. Yes, sir, thanks to the information that the boss gave us, we know where the lairs of the different mafias are and we blackmail them to let us use them. In addition, we charge them so that we do not spread their information, and we get rid of the mafias that do not want to cooperate, with the necessary threats, explained the guy with glasses, with an evil smile. That part made the clone who was disguised as a guard react. He realized that these guys were responsible for the disappearance of several mafias, and that they had used Junior's information to extort them. Naruto felt a mixture of anger and disgust for them. Yes, they are one of these guys. No, not yet. Something else is missing, the Naruto clone mentally said to himself, containing his desire to attack them. He knew that he had to wait for the right moment, and that there was something else for him to discover. With a cheerful smile, Mr. Corbat spoke to the bespectacled guy. Call the boss, we have to tell him this. It's impressive how he anticipated so many things. They waited a minute for the so-called boss to respond. He did, and it was the same distorted voice Naruto had spoken with for the past 2 weeks. He was the head of the Black Crows, the most powerful gang in the kingdom, and Naruto's main enemy. Open double angle bracket. Why did they call me? Close double angle bracket. The voice was heard, with annoyance. Apparently, she didn't like to be interrupted. Sir, I want to tell you that everything is going incredibly well. You didn't have to worry, like I told you, said Mr. Corbat, nervously. He was aware that he had upset his boss, and that it could be dangerous. Open double angle bracket. I see. I was a little worried. Close double angle bracket, said the voice, indifferently. You didn't have to be, boss. Yes, maybe the police have been pushing too hard, sir, and I don't think we can keep this up any longer, Mr. Corbat said, sincerely. Don't worry, we are not getting our hands dirty. There is no trace that incriminates us or connects us with the missing gangs or the robberies. And don't worry about those who are disobedient, I have a friend taking care of that, he said the voice, with confidence. This confirmed it. This boss guy was the guy Naruto had been talking to for the last 2 weeks. He was the one who had given him false information, the one who had betrayed him, the one who had the key to finding his true enemy. Yes, that's all, I'm leaving, gentlemen, said the voice, and hung up the call. Hey, Ryu, what about the other merchandise? Mr. Korbat asked, changing the subject. So this other guy's name is Ryu, thought the Naruto clone, acquiring another name. He was another of the company's bosses, and the one in charge of transporting the contraband. Sir, we already have the entire inventory almost complete. We will have it ready in 4 days, and we will move it to Vacuo, Ryu reported, efficiently. He was in charge of organizing and transporting the merchandise, and he knew that he could not fail. His life depended on it. They will pay a lot for them. The boss will come personally with us, so I hope everything is fine. The security and the environment have to be as comfortable as possible. I trust you, otherwise your head will be the one that will roll on the floor, Mr. Korbat threatened, sternly. He did not tolerate any mistakes, nor any betrayal. Why yes, sir, Ryu responded, fear on his face. He trembled as he thought about what could happen if something went wrong. He had heard stories of what the boss did to those who failed him, and they were not pleasant at all. Naruto's clone listened attentively to the conversation, while pretending to be one of the guards. He wondered what this other commodity was, and why it was so important. Suddenly, they were interrupted by a call. Open double angle bracket, sir. We found Mark here in the bathroom locked up. Close double angle bracket. What are you talking about? Said Korbat. He's behind me, he spoke with a voice somewhere between surprised and irritated. They turned their gaze to Naruto, and he simply smiled and made a peace sign. Immediately, he kicked Korbat in the stomach and walked out the door. A scream was heard that made the place shake. Catch him, he's an intruder, kill him now. To avoid trouble, the clone dissipated. She knew very well that this would cause problems. 2 weeks of work, between night raids, training and studies, the mental load would overwhelm his boss, Naruto. But it was a risk he was willing to take, and so he did. It dissipated. //. What the hell happened? Naruto asked in a soft voice, trying to open his eyes. Naruto, are you okay? Calm down. Don't force yourself, a feminine and sweet voice told him. That voice. Who is it? Naruto stammered, confused. Naruto, do you remember what happened? Another voice asked him, more serious and firm. Ah, yes, it's you, RWBY, and the others. Why are you all here? What the hell? Where am I? Naruto managed to say, seeing his friends surrounding him. She was in a hospital bed, hooked up to wires. Noticing Naruto's disorientation, RWBY snapped her fingers in front of him to make him realize she was there. Naruto noticed her concern and smiled at her to reassure her. He took RWBY's hand in both of her hands and squeezed it. So this is paradise, not bad actually. You are my reward for being a good boy in my other life. You are not bad at all, Naruto told him, flirting. Naruto. RWBY blushed, embarrassed. It seems that you are feeling better now, Mr. Uzumaki. If you are fooling around with your friend, a stern voice interrupted them. Miss Tsune, so I'm in the infirmary. I'm sorry if I caused you a lot of trouble, Naruto apologized. Miss Tsune was the nurse and doctor of all of Beacon Academy. When you were injured in battle, you went to her. Although everyone normally avoided that, she took some pleasure in making the students suffer with her needles and her lectures. Mr. Uzumaki, you collapsed from exhaustion. You have tried too hard, Miss Tsune reproached him. Naruto smiled painfully, touching his head. Why didn't you tell us this? I know you have a lot of pressure being the leader of our team and you have to lead by example, but you didn't need to put so much pressure on yourself. You can't do. Pira scolded, worried. For his friend. I'm going to stop you right there. Actually, this has nothing to do with studies, training, or homework. Nothing to do with it, really. I'm embarrassed to say it, Naruto confessed, his head bowed. It's just that I've been sneaking out at night when you were sleeping. Everyone gasped in surprise. They didn't expect a model and exemplary student like Naruto Uzumaki to do such a thing. Escaping. Where? Doing what? Yang asked, curious. Let's see. Don't get on me like that. It's not like I was going to do anything bad and it's not what it seems. I'm not doing anything illegal, Miss Tsune, please don't spread this information among the teachers. Look, I'm investigating certain things, well, one thing in particular and well. Naruto looked away from everyone, not daring to look them in the eye. You can tell us what's going on, Naruto. We'll accompany you if you're escaping to Vale for some things or if you got into some trouble. Alright, again, I'm going to stop you right there, Ren. And Nora, please, seriously. It's been 2 weeks since you've spoken to me. She just turned her head and pouted. Well, as I said, no, I'm not escaping to Vale or I'm involved in something shady or anything like that. I'm going to a certain place that I'm not going to say to investigate something. What is that? Weiss asked, intrigued. Well, I'm a kind of researcher and lover of science, did you know? I'm a bit of a scientist. Naruto said the first thing that came to mind, trying to sound convincing. And what is that thing you're investigating? Weiss pressed, skeptical. Nothing impressive, I'll show it to you immediately when I'm done, Naruto said, evasive. I'm afraid I'll have to suggest that you stop all those night raids, Mr. Uzumaki. They're harming you, Tsune said, sternly. Yes, I know, I will stop starting today, I will take it easy. The truth is that in these 2 weeks I have made a lot of progress and I was so excited that I couldn't stop. Naruto sighed and put on a satisfied smile that was obviously fake, although no one noticed. So, Miss Tsune, I'm leaving, Naruto said, already wanting to get up from the hospital stretcher. I'm afraid not, Yang immediately stopped him and slammed him against the bed. No, you'll have to rest, we don't want any more surprises. Guys, I feel good, I already rested and for how long? Naruto asked, impatient. 1 day, Tsune responded, laconically. 1 day, really? Wow, then there's no reason to. I'm afraid Miss Xiaolong is right, you have to rest. You can go to class early tomorrow. Tsune cut him off, firmly. Understood, miss. Naruto resigned himself, knowing that he had no escape. Well, the students can leave. Your friend is not going anywhere, I will make sure of that, Tsune said with a sinister tone in his voice, as he looked at them sternly. Yes, miss, everyone said and left quickly, not daring to contradict her or say goodbye to Naruto. Oh, God, I really don't like lying to you. Naruto lamented, feeling guilty for hiding the truth from them. And what are you going to say? That you were escaping to Vale looking for criminals. The QB laughed, mocking his situation. Yes, but I could have said something better, I couldn't think of anything at the moment. I was so nervous that only the science thing occurred to me, Naruto defended himself, remembering his improvised excuse. And Mr. Uzumaki, said a voice that interrupted Naruto's thoughts. Have your scroll, Tsune handed Naruto's scroll into his hands, with a kind smile. Thank you very much, Naruto said, taking the scroll curiously. You're welcome, I'll be at my desk, if you need anything, call me, okay. The doctor said happily, leaving the room. Let's see what I have. A message, said the blonde, opening the scroll's message application and reading something that confirmed certain information. And he read the message. Open double angle bracket. It seems that you have found one of my bases, little assassin. Very impressive, I did not expect you to locate me so quickly. So let's do something, leave these little games and go back to your world of failed redemption. Don't force me, brat, or I'll have to do things I don't want to do. Don't put pressure or I'll have to go and annihilate you myself. No pressure. Naruto Uzumaki, your good friend greets you. Naruto stared at the scroll screen in silence. He was processing this message, but what caught his attention the most was the part where this guy said he was going to kill him. He couldn't believe such ridiculousness. Some stupid guy was underestimating him. He was tired of people underestimating him. Years and years of putting up with people's shit, believing they could be superior to him. But this world gave him a new origin, a new opportunity, to be someone else, and he wouldn't let anyone walk all over him. He wouldn't allow it, not again. Damn stupid. Very good, do you want to stop playing? What a shame, I was already starting to like this challenge. Naruto said, with a mix of anger and determination. He wasn't going to let that guy threaten or intimidate him. He was going to show her who he was, a true murderer. // What the hell is Naruto doing that hasn't shown up since Friday? Yang asked curiously to the girls from Team NNPR, who were in their Team RWBY room, spending a night of pajamas. Ren had been left alone in his, poor thing. Well, he said he had to go to Vale to look for some things, and that we couldn't go with him because it was a surprise and he didn't want us to see what it was, Piro responded with a smile. A surprise? And why does he need so much time? It's already Saturday, he could have come back the same day, Yang replied incredulously, and then her face lit up with a mischievous idea. Maybe he has. He found some pretty girl out there and took her to a hotel, if you know what I mean, he said with a wink and a suggestive tone. Stop talking nonsense. I'm sure he went looking for something related to his research. You know how diligent he is, Weiss intervened with a sigh. I wish RWBY was a little more like him and took things seriously. Wow, Weiss, how quickly you came out to defend him, Blake commented ironically, without taking her eyes off her book, which she was reading from the top of her poorly made bunk bed. And why wouldn't I do it? I don't think Naruto is capable of doing something like that. He may have a reputation for being flirtatious and perverted, but he doesn't deviate from his ultimate goal. He's a hardworking man, Weiss insisted firmly. Yes, too hardworking, Nora added. He was studying so much that he fainted. He should relax a little. In fact, we should all relax a little. Our team has been working hard since the beginning, she complained loudly. Maybe Naruto has his reasons. He wants the best for us, Pira said in defense of her leader. Maybe we should tell him to take things slower, but just a little, and we will say it delicately, I don't want you to feel bad. And what about you, Nora? When are you going to stop giving Naruto the silent treatment? Blake asked Nora, changing the subject. He knows what he has to do for this to end, and I'm not going to give in, no matter how much he flirts with me, Nora said quietly, blushing. You seem to be starting to like him, Yang hinted with a mischievous smile. What's wrong? He's a bastard. Someday he's going to pay me back. Nora exclaimed with a trembling voice, and then she murmured. Why doesn't Ren say nice things to me like Naruto? I wonder what Naruto is doing now. Ruby said out loud, playing video games. Well, there are two options, Yang proposed. Either he's getting laid with a hot chick he's hooked up with somewhere, or he's looking for things for his research. Damn it, what the hell are the police doing here? Damn it, this is screwing up everything we had planned, now I won't be able to kill these sons of bitches. Some time before. Naruto was silent in a compartment of a bullhead that was flying directly towards Vacuo, but before that they had to make a stop in the middle of a forest that was about 30 kilometers from the kingdom of Vale. The reason for his trip was that this gang of criminals had found out about his movements and had discovered an infiltrator in one of their bases, but there was no need to worry, because Naruto had taken advantage of the day he pretended to be in the infirmary to visit all the bases of this gang and place paper bombs that would explode at the most opportune moment. In truth, he was proud of having learned the arts of sealing. And what do we have about the results of our supposed investigation? Naruto asked in the warehouse, alone and isolated, or at least that's how it seemed, because he was actually talking to his friend prisoner, although he knew he didn't consider it a friend, but a means to his ends. Well, as I have been able to find out, and the simulations I did here in your mental landscape, it is possible to compress 10 powder cartridge crystals into just one, but we will need a little more time. He said to the fox, and you kept the things that Junior gave you, didn't you? Of course, I have the supposed things that I went to see in Vale. Naruto said in a mocking tone. And what is our excuse? The fox asked again, repeating what they already knew. Well, I'm going to see some things in Vale. Once I acquired those things I had planned to return to Beacon, but suddenly in a distraction I was robbed, and well, I had to look for them and that took me a while, that's in case you ask why it took me so long. Suddenly he shook his bullhead a little, an indicator that he had already reached his destination. Wow, that took a long time. Very good, let's hide. Once the entrance opened, a couple of men entered. Naruto was in the darkness, camouflaged between the wall. The blonde saw exactly a tall man about 6 feet tall with brown hair and glasses. He had a very brown formal suit. Fitted to the body and white gloves. This is more than I had planned. Are you sure the bullhead will hold up? We're bringing more merchandise. Don't worry, sir. This ship can support up to 3 tons, said Corbat. Yes, it's 3 tons at 200 meters and we have to cross the fucking Mistral Mountains, said the man who was clearly the boss in an irritated tone. Sorry boss, I didn't think of that. There's no need to worry. If I had full confidence in the abilities of my subordinates I wouldn't have had to anticipate possible setbacks, that's why I brought 2 extra bullheads, said Corbat's boss with a malicious smile. Very well, distribute this load and take it to the second bullhead and the rest of the merchandise to the third, is that clear? He ordered firmly. Yes, boss, Corbat responded obediently. And what about our little intruder? Asked Corbat's boss curiously. He hasn't made any suspicious movements, sir, it seems he was just a homeless man passing by, said Corbat, hiding his nervousness. Corbat's boss was silent for a moment and then laughed. Don't worry, he must be a friend of our friend, so we have nothing to fear, he said ironically. Really, sir? Corbat asked in disbelief. Naruto watched from afar as several men loaded half of the merchandise and put it into the second airship. His attention was focused on a large container that entered the third aircraft, the one that intrigued him the most. What will be in there? They said something about other merchandise, but they didn't specify what it was, Naruto asked himself in a low voice. I wonder how they will pass all this to Vacuo, said Naruto, surprised by the illicit activities of the criminals. Do you see that? Said the fox, pointing to the 2 aircraft. One is marked as medical machinery and the other as food supplies, maybe they have some corrupt contacts in those areas in Vacuo. That makes a lot of sense, Naruto admitted, noticing the deception. Taking advantage of an oversight by the guards, Naruto sneaked stealthily towards the third airship, entered and waited for everyone to take off. Once that was done, he approached the large metal container on the ship, not knowing what he would find. He took his sword and infused it with wind chakra, futon, and quickly cut the lock. What he saw there left him stunned and horrified. He expected to find drugs, weapons or some kind of incredibly powerful bomb like in the movies, but this was not what he expected. There were girls, young women actually, of all kinds, faunus and human, they were dirty and looked like they hadn't bathed in a long time. They didn't even turn their heads to look at Naruto, it seemed like they hadn't heard anything, they didn't react, they were motionless. Lost. Naruto approached the first closest girl. She was a slim, blonde woman, very pretty actually. Naruto sadly looked at the face of the young woman who was lying unconscious on the floor of the container. Despite her haggard and dirty appearance, her beauty was evident to the naked eye. Naruto gently held her cheek, waiting for her to react, but nothing. She didn't even blink. She stayed right there, like a broken doll. Pressing a little more, Naruto gave her cheek a light tap, but he got no response either. Then, he grabbed her shoulders and shook her harder, distressed at not knowing what was happening. She's drugged, Naruto, the fox mentioned seriously from inside his mind. What? Naruto asked in disbelief. She's drugged. This is what these types of people do. They kidnap girls and sell them, but before that they drug them and make them addicted, so they keep them submissive and obedient, the fox explained with contempt. Hearing that, Naruto gritted his teeth in anger. He couldn't believe that there were people capable of doing something so cruel and ruthless. He thought about all the girls who had been victims of that trafficking ring, and what awaited them if he didn't save them. This is how they're going to sell them, for who knows what. Why would they do such a thing? Naruto whispered with a trembling voice. Why else, boy? They will not be sold as simple servants, rather as sexual slaves, said the fox bitterly. Naruto stepped out of the container without making a sound and took a breath to calm his nerves. I've already decided, he said firmly. What? Are you going to liquidate them all? The fox asked hopefully. No, I'm not going to waste my chakra on this trash. Really, kid, why do you pity them? Don't interrupt me, Naruto replied impatiently. I'm just going to break their legs, so they remember me. The only ones I'm going to send to hell are Corbat and the leader of this gang, he added. With an evil smile. Well, where is the pilot of this ship? I have to give an old friend a hug. Naruto advanced towards the cockpit as he heard the fox laugh. He didn't care what others thought of his attitude. He knew that he had to take justice into his own hands, and that no one was going to stop him from carrying out his revenge. He had waited a long time for this moment, and he was not going to pass up the opportunity to settle scores with those who had hurt him so much. He was willing to do anything, even kill, if necessary. William had not had an easy life. Since he was a child he had to fight to get what he wanted. That shaped his character, and made him the leader of a criminal gang. At first, it was not easy. There was always someone more powerful than him in the world of crime. Because of this, he used to be in a bad mood all the time, but that changed in the last few weeks, when he achieved great financial success in all his operations, thanks to a small business he made with an old acquaintance. Exchanging some documents for all the dust he had was the best decision of his life. Vacua was a place where money flowed easily, and William planned to make the most lucrative deal of his entire life. Everything was perfectly calculated. There were no flaws in his plan, except for one incredibly unlikely variable. Open double angle bracket Eagle 1, do you receive me? Close double angle bracket. Was heard over the radio of the ship carrying William and his band. What's wrong, Eagle 3? William responded, using the code they had established to communicate between the three ships that formed their convoy. We have a... The voice was interrupted by background noise. Open double angle bracket sorry, allow me to speak close double angle bracket. Another voice, unknown to William, intervened. Open double angle bracket good evening, gentlemen. I introduce myself. My name is, well, you should already know it, so let's skip those details close double angle bracket. Who the hell are you? William asked, frowning. First of all, what is your name, sir? I would like to know your name. Cursed, disrespectful imbecile, muttered William, furious. Soy William. Open double angle bracket Mr. William, listen to me carefully. It seems like we have a bit of a problem. You've actually upset me quite a bit and I intended to just persuade you, but seeing what you're doing now, I'm afraid I'll have to take serious retaliation against you. I hope. Let this not affect our little friendship of weeks. What the hell are you talking about, guy? William thought, confused. Open double angle bracket don't worry, you don't have to do anything, just wait for me. I'll be coming for you in a moment. Close double angle bracket. The call was cut off, and William and Corbat, his right-hand man, looked at each other, not understanding what was happening. What the fuck is going on and who is that guy? William wondered. William called all the men who were on his ship and gathered them together. Idiots, it seems like someone wants to play the hero here. Well, let's show them what happens to heroes. They die and no one remembers them. You, said William, pointing to the first worker who crossed his path. Contact Aguila 2. And so he did. He turned on the radio but you couldn't hear anything but static. They realized that something was very wrong with that ship. He then contacted the pilot of ship 2. What is happening, pilot of Aguila 2? He asked. Open double angle bracket some guy came here and neutralized all our men. I don't know how the hell, he was very fast. Close double angle bracket. The pilot on the other line fell silent. Open double angle bracket. Hello William, how are you? Said that voice in the background again. Open double angle bracket. I hope you're having a good time and please. I suggest you reorganize your men, I don't want it to be so easy to kill you. I'm coming for you. Close double angle bracket. He said that in a sing-song voice, it seemed like he was singing that last part. At this time, William was a little paranoid. How the hell did he do that so fast? He took out both ships and only left the pilots for the damn ones to pilot. William had devised a plan to kill the intruder who had boarded his aircraft, order the pilots to dive towards the ground and thus crush him against the roof. But he knew that those pilots did not have enough loyalty or courage to do so. So he chose to wait patiently for the subject to try to enter somewhere and then shoot him with everything he had at hand. Meanwhile, he heard a metallic noise on the roof of the ship, which indicated that the intruder was there. Without wasting time, he called his men and ordered them to shoot at the roof. His men obeyed without hesitation, eager to eliminate the enemy. After 2 minutes of intense shooting, they ceased fire and waited to see the result. To their surprise, the ceiling suddenly collapsed, weakened by the impact of the powder cartridges. When the roof fell, they could see a human figure. It was a young man of about 18 or 19 years old, 1.70 meters tall, blonde and with fawn-like features. Despite having been attacked by 2 aircraft, he did not have any visible injuries. He was so calm that he seemed to not care about anything. He was wearing a waiter's outfit, a sword on his back and a gun on his left waist. William and his men stared at the young man, waiting for him to make a move. But the young man only smiled and raised his arms theatrically, saying in a cheerful voice, "Good evening, gentlemen." He bowed before them and continued, "I am the Marquis of Death, at your service. Feel honored, not many have this privilege. So, who do I start with?" Before the young man could finish his speech, one of William's men shot him, but the young man nimbly dodged the firedust bullet, which hit another of William's subordinates, killing him instantly. "That was very rude," said the young man. "Well, I guess you'll have to pay for that death, boy," he said to the shooter. William couldn't stand the young man in front of him. He mocked him shamelessly. He was so confident that it seemed like he didn't care. "Come on, guys, what are you waiting for? Finish him off now," he shouted to his men. And so, William's men took their weapons and shot the blonde, who was surrounded on all sides. There was no way for him to escape the hail of bullets raining down on him. But, to his surprise, the blonde disappeared in a cloud of smoke and a wooden log remained in his place. "Too bad, guys, that won't work on me," said the voice behind Corbat. Immediately, Corbat turned to attack the blonde, but only received a punch from the fawn that sent him to the ground, making his teeth jump. It was an impressive scene, if William was honest. Before his men could point their weapons at the blonde again, he disappeared again in a flash of speed and continued his attack, appearing and disappearing in front of his men. William didn't even try to take advantage of any gap that the blonde left, he just watched the fight fascinated. When William's last man fell, the blonde looked at him again with a satisfied smile. William slowly clapped his hands in admiration. "Wow, wow, wow, that was very impressive, boy. Who are you?" he asked. Naruto frowned at this, but smiled sinisterly. "Let's stop playing, I know what you're doing." "Why are you doing it?" he asked. "What, sell weapons?" William responded, feigning innocence. "Don't play dumb," exclaimed the blonde, pointing his sword at William. "What are you going to do with those women? And depending on your answer, I will give you a slow or quick death. You decide." "Me, just a little charity," said William, with a mocking smile. "You know, some men need a little relaxation, a little affection, so I take care of, providing them with those kinds of sensations. I'm a social benefactor, friend," said William, with a malicious smile in his voice. William took off his white gloves with his right hand and showed that his hands were robotic prosthetics. "It's a shame, boy." "What?" asked the blonde, intrigued. "You may have defeated these men," William said, pointing to the unconscious men lying on the ground. "Maybe they aren't a challenge for you, but I'm different." "Different? How?" asked the blonde, tired of talking so much. "Well, I'm a real hunter, not like any idiot that was here. I received special training, so bad luck for you, friend. You'll have to face me, and it will be fun." The blonde smiled enthusiastically. "Heh, wow, I've faced a lot of people, even hunters in training, but never a real hunter. This is getting interesting," said the blonde, who put his sword back in its sheath. "It looks like you're a hand-to-hand fighter. I am too, so let's see how this ends. Are you ready?" Naruto put himself on guard. "I hope you don't regret it, boy," William said. The two lunged at each other, rapidly exchanging blows. William tried to give Naruto a right hook, but he dodged it. William swept Naruto's feet, but he jumped and did a backflip, creating distance. Naruto counterattacked, launching a flurry of kunai at William. William shot small projectiles coming out of his fingers, aiming directly at Naruto's head. Naruto dodged them prodigiously, he seemed to flow between William's movements. William was getting tired little by little, this was repeated several times, each one attacked and the other dodged, it seemed that neither had the advantage in this battle. But if you look closely at the battle, Naruto had a slight advantage, he was putting more and more pressure on William and he, although he didn't want to admit it, knew it. He took advantage of an opening Naruto had, but obviously he left it at that, he wanted to check something out on William actually. William put himself on guard and with his left hand he delivered 3 blows to Naruto's ribs and a hook to Naruto's chin. The blonde stepped back a little and looked at William with disdain. It seems like this is going to end very quickly, please hold on a little longer, William said in a mocking tone. The blonde looked at him for a moment and sighed in disappointment. This is a disappointment, seriously, are you a hunter in top form? The blonde asked curiously. What are you talking about? William asked, puzzled. Look, I don't want to be condescending, I know you're the strongest I've fought since I got here, but you're really not impressive at all, the blonde said, sincerely. At this moment, William became enraged and attacked furiously. Uzumaki simply sighed and took a swing that collided with William's fist and immediately a cracking sound was heard, but it wasn't Naruto's bones, it was the metal of William's hands bending. William screamed in surprise, he didn't know what was happening and he didn't have time to react when he received another blow from Naruto on the cheek that slammed him against the wall of the bullhead. He staggered a little, he was very confused, but he didn't have time to recover either, because a foot hit his head and crushed him against the metal floor. And without giving him time to rest, Naruto grabbed him by the hair and lifted him up to slam him against the left wall of the ship, bending the metal. At this point, William was moaning in pain, but Naruto didn't stop, he rolled him onto his back and got on top of him, he landed multiple blows all over his face, blow after blow echoed through the ship. William tried to defend himself and put his hands to protect his face, but it was useless. He couldn't think, the pain had taken over him, he was about to lose consciousness. He only felt fear, a visceral fear, because before him was a beast. RWBY got up from him and grabbed William's leg, with superhuman strength he lifted William's body and threw him against one of the ship's windows, shattering it but he was not ejected from the ship. For a few moments, the blonde stopped attacking William, who tried to get away from the blonde, crawling on the ground to escape from Naruto, but the Uzumaki grabbed his right leg, smiling devilishly at William and immediately twisted it at an impossible angle. William screamed in pain, dying, please stop. William begged. Oh, yes, were you going to stop with those girls if they begged you? I'm afraid not. People like you don't do that, they only ask for forgiveness when they are in danger but they don't give that same forgiveness to their victims, and I won't give it to you, this time it's all over, William, said Naruto. Naruto took his sword and pulled it out of its sheath, so this is your end, it's a shame our game ends here, I actually had a lot of fun, you know, the phone calls and getting nervous, it was a lot of fun, very few people put me in that state, feel honored, William, Naruto said. What the F are you talking about? William was very confused and began to rant, what are you fucking talking about? Don't act like an asshole now, don't pretend, you were touching my balls for the last 2 weeks, calling after calling and annoying me, making me do your dirty work, do you think that wouldn't have consequences, William? Now that it's here it's time to pay the price and it seems like you don't have a dime, said Naruto. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm serious, kid, who the hell are you? William asked. Don't act stupid, William, Naruto said in a mocking tone. No, seriously, said William, very confused, what are you talking about? I've never called you, I don't even know your name. Playing crazy will do you no good, William, so assume your destiny is a man and die. Really? Are you crazy? I have no idea what you're talking about. How about the information you have on your desk and in all your bases? Naruto said. I exchanged that information with a colleague, I don't know where he got it from. My partner told me that someone else gave it to him, said William. Naruto stared at him, he was analyzing his behavior and realized that he was telling the truth, thanks to the fox confirming it to him. This asshole didn't know who he was so the blonde did all this for nothing, the bastard who was screwing him for the last 2 weeks was still on the loose, this made Naruto angry. Naruto sighed and shrugged, brushing it off and said, that doesn't matter, it doesn't change the fact that you are going to sell those women, I'm going to kill you, William, and I hope you're ready. Naruto raised his sword to cut off William's head, taking his time to see the terror in his eyes. And when he lowered his sword he had to stop dead, very close to William, because he heard the noise of the propellers all over the place. Open double angle bracket stop, it's the Veil Police, lower all your ships to the ground or we'll shoot. Naruto quickly put away his sword and opened his eyes, he didn't know what was happening, how did this go from one thing to another? Something wasn't right. Damn it, what the hell are the police doing here? Damn it, this is screwing up everything we had planned, now I won't be able to kill these sons of bitches. He only had one thing to say in this situation, oh, shit.